This guy used to be a total loser, who couldn't even awaken his abilities, making him an easy target for his classmates to bully. But when the student council thugs came looking for trouble, he took them all down with just a few basic punches. This left an S-rank genius absolutely speechless. But our main guy was just disappointed he didn't even get to warm up. What everyone didn't know was that he hadn't just awakened a triple S-rank ability, he was also the only person in the world who possessed all 5 elements. As it turns out, this is a world overrun by monsters. Once people reach adulthood, everyone awakens some kind of special ability. Our protagonist had originally awakened an S-rank talent. But in the final war against the beasts, he lost his sister and everything he cared about. In the end, he chose to blow himself up just to take the Demon King down with him. But when he hazily opened his eyes, everything had changed. Not only had he traveled 10 years back in time, but he had also awakened a devouring ability. At this point, the world hadn't ended yet, and the Demon King hadn't even shown up. He finally had enough time to build up his strength. Right then, he suddenly felt a strange surge of energy inside his body. A system screen popped up right in front of him, showing his lightning attribute assassin class from his past life. He had also awakened the Devourer system, which allowed him to consume other abilities. Tran hadn't even had the chance to fully check his current status yet. Before he could finish his class transfer, a sudden knock on the door cut off his train of thought. The door burst open and Ma Long rushed in, looking completely panicked. He practically ran over to the bed and blurted out, "Bro, you're finally awake. Are you feeling okay?" Tran quietly replied that he was fine, but his mind was racing with other thoughts. It was clear that only he could see the screen. Ma Long didn't notice a thing, fussing over him and checking him from head to toe, only to suddenly freeze when he realized all of yesterday's wounds were completely gone. How could someone who had just been beaten half to death recover completely overnight? This healing speed is even faster than awakened ones, Ma Long muttered in utter disbelief. This was Tran's college roommate. In his past life, Ma Long had awakened too, but he had always remained at the bottom of the class. He ended up dying a brutal death when the 3rd Demon King descended. But now, here he was, standing right in front of him, alive and well. It was at this exact moment that Tran truly realized he was back. Still completely clueless, Ma Long hurriedly continued. "The rank evaluation is tomorrow. If you're feeling up to it, you'd better get ready. Even if you haven't awakened yet, it still affects your graduation." The scene shifts to the campus at sunset, filled with the lively chatter of students walking back and forth. Groups of students were busy with their own things, and in the corner of the field, some guys were playing soccer, full of energy. Tran stood silently for a moment, his gaze drifting. It had been a very long time since he had seen this many living people. The comment sent a shiver down Ma Long's spine, and he asked, "Dude, why are you talking so creepy?" But to Tran, all of this peace had once completely vanished. If he didn't change things, that hopeless future would repeat itself. His eyes grew resolute. He had to get stronger, as fast as possible. In this era, the only way for awakened individuals to level up was to hunt monsters inside the dungeons. But those places were heavily guarded and monopolized by the major guilds, leaving ordinary people with almost no chance to get in. Tran quietly evaluated himself. Based on his current stats, where exactly did his power stand? In this society, strength was clearly divided into ranks, from highest to lowest, S, A, B, C, D, and E. Most students never got past E rank. Reaching D rank was reserved for a handful of geniuses or kids from guild families. So, what rank would he be? Tran glanced at Ma Long, already knowing the answer. He was at least stronger than him. Just then, a ball flew right into Ma Long's face, knocking him to the ground and shattering his glasses. Then, a mocking voice echoed, "Well, well, if it isn't Tran and Ma Long." Kung Thon stood there with a look of pure contempt, sneering, "Wow, you two recovered pretty fast, didn't you?" Ma Long scrambled to his feet, his face pale as he muttered, "Seriously? What bad luck to run into him." Tran simply stood there, his gaze turning icy cold. Kung Thon continued to mock them. "I'm telling you, these two can really take a beating. Since you knew I was playing ball here, why didn't you bring me some water?" With those words, the atmosphere instantly grew heavy. Ma Long instinctively trembled, bowing his head to apologize, and turned to go buy some water. But at that exact moment, Tran spoke up. His voice wasn't loud, but it was enough to make everyone freeze. "You didn't do anything wrong. They're the ones who should apologize." Tran paused for a brief second, his eyes locked onto his target. So it was him. Memories of the past rushed back like a tidal wave, the constant humiliation, the beatings. It all felt as vivid as if it had happened just yesterday. Sensing things were getting out of hand, Ma Long panicked and shouted, "Hey, stop it right now." But Kung Than just turned back with a smirk, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Why should I stop? I'm trying to help the guy. Since he still hasn't awakened yet, shouldn't we give him a little wake-up call?" The moment he finished speaking, the crowd behind him burst into loud laughter. A piercing laugh rings out across the schoolyard as they walk away, casually tossing back a final, cold remark. "Passed out already? How boring. Let's go." Ma Long rushes over to support Tran, asking anxiously, "Are you okay?" Right then, Tran's tears begin to fall as his voice drops low. Why won't they just leave us alone?" He clenches his fists as a cold realization washes over him. Malice doesn't just lurk in the dungeons. It exists right here in this world, too. Those words make Kung Than freeze. He turns around, his eyes turning dangerous. "What the hell did you just say?" With a twisted smile and a voice dripping with malice, he prepares to beat him again. But in that exact moment, reality feels like it is being dragged backward. He is still standing right in front of Tran with a sneer, repeating that familiar, arrogant line. "You knew I was playing ball out here, and you didn't bring me any water?" Terrified, Ma Long bows his head and apologizes, preparing to run off. But Tran steps forward, his voice calm yet firm. "You did nothing wrong. They are the ones who should apologize." The moment the words leave his mouth, Kung Than's face twists with rage. Panicked, Ma Long tugs at his sleeve. "Tran, what on earth are you saying?" But it is too late. Kung Than is already releasing his aura. As he takes a step forward, Tran's gaze turns ice cold, and details about the guy in front of him flash through his mind. Kung Than only acts like a tyrant because his older brother is the strongest student council president. On his own, he is absolutely nothing special. Whispers break out among the crowd. "Look, there's about to be a good show. They just got discharged from the hospital, didn't they? One is the weakest awakened, and the other hasn't even awakened yet. Seriously, the school's biggest losers." Stopping right in front of Tran, Kung Than intentionally exerts his pressure, his voice dripping with menace. "What did you just say to me, punk?" Tran merely narrows his eyes, responding coldly, "Don't bother us ever again." Those words are like throwing gasoline on fire. Flying into a rage, Kung Than lunges forward, shouting, "I think you're tired of living." But before his fist can even connect, it is blocked. Tran counters so fast that no one can even track his movement. Kung Than is sent stumbling backward, clutching his arm in sheer agony. The onlookers gasp in shock. What the hell just happened? Did he actually block Kung Than's punch? No way, he hasn't even awakened yet. Am I seeing things? Furious, Kung Than roars. "An unawakened trash dares to provoke me." Tran merely lets out a cold smirk, thinking to himself, "Perfect, I'll use you as a guinea pig." Class change system. Instantly, the power inside his body shifts, and the transition is complete. Level 1, Lightning Assassin. Standing nearby, Ma Long's eyes go wide. "Since when did you awaken?" Tran doesn't answer. He simply raises a hand and curls his finger in a provocative gesture. This only infuriates Kung Than further. He immediately activates his skill, roaring as he charges. "Have you forgotten what it feels like to be crushed by the strong?" But this time is completely different. Every single one of his strikes is neutralized, followed by a relentless counterattack. In the blink of an eye, he is sent flying into the distance, his body battered and bruised. The crowd instantly erupts. What just happened? Sending Kung Than flying with a single strike? Unbelievable. Kung Than's face twists with pain and panic as the whispers grow louder. Is that really Tran? What on earth happened to him? Sprawled on the ground, Kung Than refuses to back down, screaming, "You dirty coward, you blindsided me." He then glares at his lackeys, snapping, "What are you idiots just standing there for?" But none of them dare to take a step forward. Kwang Bok stands frozen in place. Right before him is a completely different Tran, radiating an overwhelming pressure. Gritting his teeth, Kung Than charges once more. "I'll kill you." But this time, the moment he swings his arm, Tran catches it in a vice grip. A sickening crunch of bones echoes through the air, and he screams in agony. Looking down at him, Tran's voice is dead cold. "You're done." His eyes are filled with pure disdain, too weak. With that, he delivers a final blow, sending him flying like a sandbag. Kung Than's body crashes heavily into the wall before slumping to the ground, a clear handprint stamped across his face. Ma Long stands dumbfounded before slowly sinking to his knees, his entire body trembling. Tran, since when? His voice is filled with utter confusion. How are you this strong? Meanwhile, Tran quietly analyzes the situation, drawing a few quick conclusions. First, he can still switch to his lightning attribute assassin state at any time, just like before. Even though his system level is only level 1, this state is already more than enough to overwhelm low-level awakened individuals. This proves his rank is at least higher than E rank, though his exact grade remains unclear. His gaze suddenly shifts as another question arises. He clearly defeated his opponent, yet his system stats didn't budge at all. As his hand slowly draws his weapon, he wonders, could it be? Seeing this, Ma Long immediately panics. Wait, Tran, what are you doing? But Tran has already raised his weapon, its sharp tip pointed directly at Kung Than's throat. With an icy glare, he arrives at a final deduction. Is the way to gain EXP still the same as before? Without another word, Tran lunges forward, raining down a relentless barrage of attacks on Kung Than, giving him absolutely no chance to fight back. Just as the tension reaches its absolute peak, Lin Vu suddenly appears. Her voice rings out, calm but carrying a clear warning. Hey, this is a school. Even if he was the one in the wrong, this level of punishment is enough. He won't dare cause trouble anymore anyway. Hearing this, Tran merely gave him a cold glare before casually tossing Kung Than aside like trash. A quick question flashed through his mind. Why was the student council so eager to jump in and protect a piece of garbage like him? But in the end, he didn't plan on taking things too far. Giving scum like him a good scare was enough. Otherwise, they would never leave him alone. Around him, the onlookers couldn't hide their fear. That glare of his was absolutely terrifying. It was definitely best to stay out of his way. Someone even whispered, "Is that guy really Tran? Isn't he supposed to be the weakest and poorest loser in the entire school?" The crowd quickly dispersed as if nothing had happened. Lin Vu stood there, her eyes turning cold as she listened to the gossip. The weakest and poorest? The scene shifts to the boys' dorm. Ma Long is frantically trying to explain things to their roommates. You guys have to believe me. Tran really awakened, and he's an incredibly powerful lightning-class assassin. He just beat Kung Than so badly the guy couldn't even stand up. Now those jerks don't even dare to look us in the eye. Hangba picked his ear, looking completely bored as he asked, "So where is he now?" Ma Long replied, sounding unsure, "I think he went for a run." The moment he said it, he was immediately shouted down. If he's so strong, why the hell is he running? Does an awakened even need basic physical training? Does that make any sense? Hang Hu chimed in with a scoff. Looks like Ma Long's brain got scrambled from getting beaten up too much. Wake up. The reason the four of us got room together is simple. We're all at the very bottom tier of the entire grade. That's a hard fact that's not going to change. Hangba raised his voice even more. I'm ranked 4th from the bottom, which still makes me the strongest guy in this room. Everyone only gets to awaken 1 class in their lifetime, and those other 2 guys are just useless support classes. But me? I'm a core class mage, the only combat class in this entire dorm. That is the unshakable truth. So saying a pathetic loser like Tran awakened as a lightning class assassin? That's the joke of the century. He boasted proudly. Lately, I've been feeling way stronger. Who knows? Maybe I'll pass tomorrow's test and join the guild. After all, tomorrow is the final rank assessment before graduation. Everything will be clear by then. Meanwhile, in another location, an E-rank trial inside the abyss had just concluded. Kung Din strolled out casually with his hands in his pockets, declaring the trial over, but his eyes quickly locked onto Kung Than, who was waiting for him. What are you doing here? He asked, a hint of confusion in his voice. Kung Than gritted his teeth, his face twisted with pure resentment. Bro, if you don't handle this, I won't be able to sleep tonight. He humiliated me in front of everyone. He's clearly looking down on you. Kung Din let out a heavy sigh, sounding reluctant but still replying, Fine, I'll deal with it. The next scene opens in a quiet room, with a half-cut steak on the table. Lin Vu looked at him inquisitively. How do you plan to handle this? Kung Din replied nonchalantly, If he's weak, he has nobody to blame but himself. Then he asked, Is that guy really as strong as he claims? Lin Vu calmly analyzed. You already know the exact power levels and ranks of everyone in this school. There are fewer than 10 people who have reached D rank, and you've already recruited all of them into your guild. Plus, nobody else has had access to the abyss. Ordinary awakened can't even level up on their own. so no one can possibly catch up to you. Meanwhile, under a torrential downpour, Tran was silently training, carrying a load of 100 kilograms and running for 20 kilometers. Each step was heavy, but he never slowed down. He knew all too well that basic training was the only way to build up his physical stats. And an Awaken's power ceiling is directly tied to their physical body. If your body isn't strong enough, you can't unlock your class's full potential, no matter what it is. But he was still far from satisfied. This was nowhere near enough. Memories of the future suddenly rushed back. In year 60, the Demon King of Wrath broke his seal and descended upon the human realm, slaughtering countless lives in the blink of an eye. And he was the one who killed his only living relative, his little sister. Her desperate cries for help still echoed in his mind. It was also Wrath who opened the gates of hell, bringing the other demon kings into this world. Tran's eyes turned resolute. His first target was clear: kill Wrath. He had only 3 years left, and his enemy was definitely growing stronger at a terrifying pace. If he wanted to change everything, he had to move faster than him. Right then, his phone suddenly rang. Tran stopped and pulled it out. The screen showed the caller was Van. He answered softly, his voice dropping. "Hello?" A familiar voice came from the other end. "Bro, why did you call me so many times today?" "I was taking an exam, so my phone died. I just got back to the dorm and plugged it in." Then she happily continued, "If I win the prize this time, our rent will be completely covered." Hearing those words, Tran's heart clenched. In that dark future, he had begged countless times for a chance to start over. Now, it had actually happened, but Van asked, "Is it raining where you are? Why aren't you saying anything?" Tran took a deep breath, silently swearing to protect her no matter the cost, and replied softly, "It's nothing, I just haven't heard your voice in a long time." She let out a puzzled laugh. "What are you talking about? Didn't you just call me the day before yesterday? Let's meet up after my exams are done. Make sure to wait for my good news." With that, she hung up. Tran stood silently in the rain, his eyes deep and intense. Now, everything was truly starting over from the beginning. He pushed himself to run 3 more laps. He had to get stronger as fast as possible to protect everything right in front of him. 8 hours had passed since his return. He was slowly getting used to this younger, yet still weak body. The biggest hurdle right now was leveling up. If he wanted to get stronger, he had to enter the dungeons. But those places are monopolized by the guilds. Ordinary people don't stand a chance of getting close. So, how is he supposed to hunt monsters? And what is that gluttony power anyway? Right then, a mechanical voice echoed in his head. "System booting up. Boot complete. Gluttony system activated." Before Tran could even react, the space around him distorted, and his body was pulled away in a daze. When he regained consciousness, he was standing in a completely unfamiliar place. Before him was an eerie, dark road stretching out endlessly. Tran frowned slightly, his guard immediately going up. "Where is this? I was definitely just asleep." Tran stared at the object in front of him, his eyes locking onto that bizarre tower. Only one question filled his mind. What on earth is this thing? He scanned his surroundings. The landscape was completely alien, unlike anywhere he had ever known. Right then, the muddy ground ahead squirmed as a Tang-Tu monster crawled out. The tension in the air instantly spiked, and the system rang in his head. Class change in progress. Tran realized right away, a monster? Could this place actually be a dungeon? The sound faded, and the notification read, "Class change complete. Level 1, Lightning Assassin." With no time to waste, he quickly braced himself. Even if he didn't fully understand the situation, he had to deal with the threat in front of him first. Electrical energy surged through his body as Flash Step was activated. Electricity crackled across his entire body, channeling into his arm to form a razor-sharp blade. Right at that moment, a swarm of Tang-Tu monsters erupted from the mud like a storm, but Tran didn't slow down for a second. His body surged forward like a bolt of lightning, tearing through their formation in the blink of an eye. A fang flew into the air as blood splattered. With his current strength, these E-rank monsters were absolutely no match for him. A notification popped up. Acquired Tang Tu Feng ×3. Everything felt terrifyingly real. Nothing like a dream. 52 experience points gained, and his status screen updated instantly. Level up. Level 2. All stats increased by 5 points. Tran clenched his fists, his eyes shining. Most importantly, he could hunt monsters here to level up a perfect solo grinding spot. The moment the thought crossed his mind, He turned to look at the Tang-Tu swarm behind him, a smirk playing on his lips. If that's the case, he was going to make the absolute most of it. The battle raged on, with system notifications ringing continuously. 320 experience points gained. Level up, level 3, Lightning Assassin. Items acquired. 18 Tang-Tu fangs, 1 Tang-Tu crystal. The leveling speed was unbelievably fast, especially when facing elite monsters. The experience they yielded far exceeded ordinary monsters, pushing him up 2 levels in no time. Right then, a new line appeared on his status screen. Devour available. Tran froze, unable to hide his shock. Devour? What does that mean? A thought flashed through his head. Could this be the true essence of his gluttony power? His status bar began to shift. Devouring in progress. He reached out and grabbed the orb of light in front of him, and the information instantly popped up. Tang-Tu King, Cloud Warrior, Frozen Bone Physic, immune to ice. Monsters convert into cards after being devoured. Tran stood dazed. He didn't just kill them, he could actually devour them and turn their classes into his own. His eyes trembled slightly as the surrounding space suddenly blurred, revealing a fleeting, familiar image, the aura of the Blue Moon Demon King. Panic gripped Tran. The gluttony power originally belonged to the Demon King, yet now, it was in his hands. Normally, a person could only possess 1 class, but now he had 2, and if he kept devouring, the number of classes he could hold might be limitless. The sheer thought of it sent a shiver down his spine, but before he could fully process it, a terrifying pressure bore down on him, accompanied by a voice that seemed to rip through space. "You finally arrived. I've been waiting for you for a very long time." The system blared a warning, and Tran immediately went on high alert. In this world, power was ranked from E to S. In his past life, he had risked everything just to barely touch the S rank threshold. But right now, he was at best a D rank. Yet the opponent before him was an S rank boss. The gap between them was near absolute. What he couldn't grasp was why an S rank monster would appear here, and how it even knew his name. The battle erupted. Tran was continuously overwhelmed. The opponent launched incredibly lethal attacks, yet deliberately avoided his vital spots, as if trying to corner him without actually killing him. After dozens of exchanges, the boss stopped, his voice cold. Still resisting? Tran realized right away that the opponent wanted to make him submit. The boss continued, "You should reconsider my offer. Stay here with me and guard the demon tower. This is a rare opportunity." Tran replied without a moment's hesitation. "No matter what, there's no way in hell I'm staying in a creepy place like this." The moment the words left his mouth, a sword slashed forward at an insane speed, nearly catching him off guard. The opponent said coldly, "Do you think the only reason I haven't killed you is because you're the only one who made it here?" All around them, hordes of monsters began to rise from the swamp. He pressed on, his voice dropping low. "I'll ask you one last time. Stay or be crushed." Inside Tran, the system roared, and his power surged. Gritting his teeth as intense killing intent flared within him, he snarled, "I choose." Before the words even faded, his body surged forward like a bolt of lightning. His only goal was to kill the bastard. The opponent let out a contemptuous laugh. Ridiculous. But amidst the chaos of the battle, Tran remained dead calm. He picked up on a pattern in every strike. Each sword swing had a delay of about 0.4 seconds, followed by a 0.2-second recovery time. Exploiting that tiny window was his only shot at a counterattack. Without a second thought, he lunged, channeling a surge of electricity into his blade and driving it straight through the bastard's heart. The raw current exploded, paralyzing the target. While it wasn't enough to kill an S-rank boss, it could at least freeze him for a few crucial seconds. Without wasting a moment, he activated Godspeed, turning his entire body into a bolt of lightning as he bolted. Throughout the entire fight, he had been scanning his surroundings. There was only a single source of light, which had to be the exit. He reached his hand out, but just as his fingers were about to brush against it, the light suddenly vanished. Right after, that same voice echoed from behind him. "Too bad. That was just an illusion. The exit you're looking for doesn't exist. This isn't a demon lair." He stepped closer, his voice laced with intrigue. "But I'm impressed you spotted the opening in my attack so quickly. Incredible. Even pushed to the absolute brink, you kept your cool to find a way out. You really might be the one to bring us hope." In that instant, his memories fractured. Tran realized the truth. This was his final battle against Lam Nuyet from his previous life. Rakshasa's eyes flashed with a cold, piercing light, his entire body seeming to freeze within an icy aura. In their battle back then, He had constantly cycled through countless terrifying classes, each transformation wielding enough power to utterly crush any opponent. Tran didn't hesitate, leaping forward to deliver a devastating kick, but Rakshasa instantly shifted forms to launch a counterattack. As the monster began gathering energy, Tran had already created some distance, his eyes darting quickly to the area behind him. An unforgettable image flashed in his mind. Another one of his forms materialized, looking like a demon straight out of hell. It was this exact form, with a bizarre purple light radiating from his head. That was when it hit Tran. Rakshasa had once been devoured by Lamanguyet's power of gluttony, and that very same power was now residing inside his own body. Tran froze, the words slipping from his mouth. Could this place actually be inside my own body? Rakshasa chuckled, his voice filled with genuine appreciation. Not only are your combat skills top tier, but your mind is incredibly sharp. You are worthy of inheriting everything here. Tran muttered in disbelief. Everything? Here? Rakshasa held out a glowing key and began to explain. This is the key to the demon tower. Lam Nugyet has devoured countless savage demons, and the absolute strongest among them are sealed inside the tower behind me. Your mission is simple: devour them all, and make their power your own. A system notification popped up. Obtained temporal rift key. Tran took the key, his eyes still clouded with suspicion. Why are you helping me? Rakshasa's voice turned heavy. Even among demons, there is good and evil. Those demon kings slaughtered my entire clan for their own selfish gains. I've waited for my chance at revenge for years, and now, I've finally found you. You are my only hope, the only one capable of pulling this off. His words only put Tran further on guard. Who is this person? But Rakshasa didn't answer, as his body slowly began to dissolve, leaving behind only a final piece of advice. All the answers are in the demon tower. Go find them yourself. Just before vanishing completely, he left his parting words. Take my power, and get our revenge. A stream of purple light shot from his body directly into Tran's palm, unleashing an explosion of power. The system chimed to announce he had reached level 10. Obtained Rakshasa soul bone. Tran bowed his head, his voice low. I get it. I'll carry your legacy with me. Staring at the status screen for the Purgatory Rakshasa, his eyes turned ice cold. A debt of blood will be paid in blood. Warm sunlight streamed through the window as a voice shattered his thoughts, dragging him back to reality. Get up, hurry! Tran bolted upright in bed. Hang Ta and Hang Hu were frantically rushing around. Today was the rank evaluation, and uniforms were mandatory. Tran looked around, confusion flooding his mind. Am I really back in the dorm? He quickly checked his body. Every single wound had completely vanished. Was it all just a dream? But the moment he opened his system interface, reality hit him. Every single level and item remained intact. In just a single night, he had jumped all the way to level 10. Tran frowned slightly. Which rank does that put me at? Suddenly, Hang Ta got right in his face with a smug smirk. Heard you got showered with praise last night. Did you actually get stronger, or what? Thinking of stealing my spot as the top dog in this dorm? Ma Long stood to the side, too afraid to utter a word. Hang Ta nudged them. Let's move. The test is starting. As the group left the dorm, Hang Ta did nothing but run his mouth the entire way. We're all technically rank E in our dorm, but every rank is split into 3 tiers. You guys are just low tier, while I'm mid tier. There's a massive gap between us. I could take on 10 of you guys by myself, got it? He boasted, growing more animated by the second. Who knows, maybe I'll even rank up today. Ma Long leaned in close, whispering to Tran. You've got to go all out in a bit. Flash that rank D status, and scare the absolute crap out of him. Tran remained silent, his eyes darkening. Rank D, huh? The group soon arrived at the main hall, and the massive crowd immediately left Hang Ta speechless. Standing tall in the center was a massive board reading, Awakener Academy rank evaluation ceremony. Almost everyone had already gathered. Right then, Kwang Bak and his lackeys showed up, their arrogant attitude forcing everyone around to clear a path. But the second his eyes locked onto Tran, his entire body froze before he bowed deeply and bellowed, Big brother Tran, you're finally here. This sight left everyone dead silent. Hang Ta stood there frozen like a statue, while Ma Long just scoffed, as if he had seen it coming all along. Tran said nothing, keeping his hands in his pockets as he walked on. But before he could get very far, someone blocked his path. Kwang Dich, a member of the student council. He smirked, his eyes cold and sharp. I heard you had a little run-in with Kung Than yesterday. Do you even know whose brother he is? The student council president, Kung Din, Hang Ta, and the two behind him instantly tensed up. Kwang Dich stepped closer, his voice dripping with pressure. My senses are incredibly sharp. I can easily sniff out the scent of the strong. He leaned in close, deliberately putting on the pressure. But on you, all I smell is the stench of someone who spent their whole life rotting at the bottom of society. Tutron's reply instantly froze the air. He spat out coldly. What, are you a dog? Kwang Dich instantly flew into a rage, roaring. What did you say? But just as things were about to spiral out of control, a calm, steady voice echoed from a distance. Kwang Dich stopped in his tracks. Kung Din walked over with a calm demeanor, his eyes sharp, yet incredibly rational. He made it clear that he had investigated the whole incident. The fault lay with Kung Than, and anyone who messed up had to face the consequences. Hearing this, Kwang Dich immediately bowed his head, not daring to argue. Understood, President. Kung Din didn't say another word. He just quietly scanned the crowd before locking eyes with Tran. Their gazes met silent, but heavy with tension. Right then, an announcement boomed from the stands, shattering the silence. The rank evaluation is about to begin. Students, please step forward in order. Kung Din turned to leave, his voice casual. Let's go, get ready for the test. This Tran guy doesn't seem like anything to worry about. Kwang Dich scrambled to follow him. High above, Lin Vu watched in silence, a faint smile playing on her lips. This evaluation might actually get interesting. As time ticked by, the first name called was Hang Ta, drawing immediate cheers from the crowd below. Though a bit nervous, he stepped through the gate, entering the simulated dungeon space where the demon core was waiting to absorb his energy. Unleashing his full power, he delivered a blow that made the demon core explode. The data quickly fed back, and the gate changed colors. The screen displayed the result, mid-tier E rank. The instructors recorded it, but everyone was still waiting for the most crucial part. Potential. Ma Long anxiously explained from below, that's the absolute limit of what a person can achieve. The data board flickered rapidly before settling on. Potential C. The announcement was made, and Hang Ta walked out, looking thoroughly disappointed. Clearly, he hadn't made the progress he wanted over the last 2 years. Before Ma Long could even offer some comfort, a new result boomed out, shattering the quiet. Evaluation complete. Current rank, low tier D rank. Potential, B. The entire hall instantly erupted in deafening cheers. The very first D rank of the year had arrived, sending everyone into a frenzy. The competitive tension instantly skyrocketed. Just a moment later, Kwang Dich stepped out of the evaluation gate with a smug grin as the announcement boomed clearly. Evaluation complete. Current rank, low tier D rank. Maximum potential, A. The moment the results hit, the crowd below fell into a chaotic chatter. Ma Long clutched his head in despair, while Hang Ta banged his head against the wall in disbelief. That's already the 8th D rank. The two instructors standing on the balcony looked at the data screen and couldn't help but whisper. This year is truly unusual. The number of students reaching D rank, even if they're only low tier, doing that without any real combat experience is incredibly impressive. The other instructor nodded in agreement. Normally, only 2 or 3 students in an entire graduating class reach this level. If this trend keeps up, this year's exam is going to be one for the books. Right then, the steady click-clack of leather shoes drew everyone's eyes directly toward the gate as the announcer's voice rang out. Next candidate, Kung Din. He walked out with an effortless poise, casually adjusting his tie. His sheer confidence practically overwhelmed the air around him, sending a massive wave through the crowd. It's finally his turn. The student council president and the young master of the Imperial Guild. A true, certified genius. Meanwhile, Tran just stood there, his quiet gaze completely unfazed. Outside, the whispers continued. 2 years ago, he was already at D rank, and the highest in this class so far is only low tier. Since the school record is mid-tier D rank, do you think he can break it today? Inside the evaluation space, the demon core, which had its eyes closed, suddenly twitched as if sensing something. Kung Din approached and raised his hand, but secretly calculated in his mind. He only needed to hold back a portion of his strength. Unleashing his full power during the graduation combat exam would make the biggest splash. Still, even with just this fraction of his strength, it would be more than enough to claim the top spot. Outside, the data board began to flicker rapidly, but then a single detail made all the instructors freeze in their tracks. The color of the potential indicator shifted from white to gold, an incredibly rare sight. The screen froze, displaying the final result. High tier D rank, potential S. In an instant, the entire hall erupted, and the students went absolutely wild. This is pure madness. Scoring a high D tier is already light years ahead of everyone, but possessing an S rank potential? That is almost completely unheard of. Kwang Dich and his crew stood there slack-jawed, unable to hide their shock. As expected of the president, the ultimate record breaker. Ma Long also screamed out in pure excitement for Trong Min Academy to actually produce someone with S rank potential. We are literally witnessing history in the making. Hang Ta grabbed Hang Hu in a tight grip, laughing and crying all at once in a mix of utter despair and burning jealousy. Up above, the instructors immediately gathered to discuss the situation. This result must be reported to the higher-ups immediately. Someone with S-rank potential is an incredibly rare national-level asset. Kung Din stepped out of the testing gate to a chorus of wild cheers. A faint smile played on his lips, clearly thrilled with his own performance. Up in the stands, the observer couldn't hide his satisfaction either. A true prodigy had finally emerged. However, standing nearby, Lin Vu only shook his head slightly. His eyes drifted towards someone else as he spoke in a soft, knowing tone. Compared to Kung Din, I am actually much more eager to see how that other guy performs. Down below, Tran stood perfectly still, his head slightly bowed, completely unfazed by the roaring commotion around him. That was until the announcer's voice echoed once again. Next candidate, Tran. He slowly lifted his head, his deep, intense gaze suggesting that a true storm was about to break. Kwang Dich stood there, sneering openly, looking at Tran like he was some kind of joke, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Hey kid, make sure you try your absolute best, okay? Don't go embarrassing our whole dorm. Then he burst into a loud laugh, not missing a beat to throw in another jab. If you end up pulling a low E tier, that would really be a sight to see. Your whole room is packed with nothing but low to mid-tier trash. It's honestly hilarious. He glared at all four of them, spitting out venomous words. With your pathetic level of strength, you guys are only going to be a laughingstock when the real combat exam starts. Hearing this, Ma Long trembled with rage. He snapped back, his voice stuttering in anger. Just, you, wait. Tran is going to absolutely blow your mind. Tran, however, didn't say a single word. He quietly walked straight into the testing gate, his calm demeanor leaving everyone guessing what was going on in his head. Hang Hu stared at his retreating back, feeling a wave of doubt. Can he really pull this off? Inside the testing chamber, Tran approached the demon heart. The usually mindless object suddenly shivered slightly, as if sensing something deeply abnormal. Meanwhile, outside, the buzz surrounding the upcoming practical graduation exam was turning the atmosphere even more tense. This was the one and only shot for most awakened individuals to catch the attention of the major guilds. Each team could have a maximum of 10 members, choosing their own allies. The winning team would be recruited directly by the Imperial Guild, so everyone was desperately scrambling to form alliances. Kwang Dich draped an arm around the guy next to him, bragging that their team had already gathered 9 D-tier members. Add Kung Din to the mix, and victory was practically guaranteed. He laughed out loud. The strong stand together, while the weak are destined to be cast aside. That is a rule that has never changed. Meanwhile, Ma Long stood below, growing more anxious by the second, his eyes glued to the gate. Tran had been in there for so long without a single sound coming out. Sneers and giggles began to ripple through the crowd. Some even turned their backs and started walking away, assuming Tran's test had finished ages ago because he was just too weak. Kwang Dich also looked bored, waving his hand to call the others to go find some entertainment elsewhere. But right at that moment, the overhead leaderboard suddenly flickered, its characters spinning wildly before locking into place. A bold letter D appeared, with high tier printed right beneath it. The entire area fell dead silent for a fraction of a second, and then exploded into chaos. Ma Long screamed at the top of his lungs in excitement. High D tier, see that? I told you so. But before the joy could even spread, a robotic voice rang out. Demon Heart unstable. Results may be inaccurate. Please retest. Inside, Tran stared at the display, quickly realizing that his base power at level 10 was already equivalent to a high D tier. Right after that, he switched his class. A flash of lightning crackled, transforming him into the Purple Firmament King. This time, the resulting score left everyone utterly speechless. Mid-C tier. Outside, all color drained from Kwangdik's face. He stuttered in sheer disbelief. C rank. What the hell is going on? Even the instructors were utterly bewildered. They had never seen anything like this in their entire lives. The system kept flashing error warnings, but Tran only grew more confident in his theory. If even his weakest class could reach C tier, then the other two forms would undoubtedly be far superior. Without a moment's hesitation, he switched again. This time, it was the Purgatory Rakshasa. A heavy, suffocating aura surged outward, causing the very testing chamber to tremble. Tran clenched his fists, his eyes turning cold and sharp. Alright, now, let's see where my true limits actually lie. Inside the chamber, the demon heart's eyes snapped open. Its entire body began to shake violently, sweat pouring down as if it were facing something far beyond its capacity to endure. In an instant, the sky above turned pitch black. A massive vortex formed in midair as thunder roared and violent winds howled, creating an apocalyptic scene right in the middle of the school grounds. Outside, Kwangdik looked up, screaming in pure panic. What the hell is going on? Meanwhile, Hanghu clasped his hands together, his voice trembling but loaded with excitement. An omen from the heavens. Today will definitely go down in history. I have a feeling our dorm is about to produce an absolutely legendary figure. On the display board, the numbers began to fluctuate crazily. Then it changed again. A glowing golden S flashed in the potential category. An elderly professor instantly shrieked in absolute shock. Another S-class potential. Even Gong Ting lost his cool freezing dead in his tracks. But it didn't stop there. Suddenly, the golden glow blurred, bleeding into a deep, ominous red as piercing alarms began to blare repeatedly. System error, system error. A flood of S-class symbols filled the screen, finally locking onto a single line that left everyone utterly speechless. Potential, immeasurable, exceeding system limits. Standing below, Jiangdi went pale as a ghost, his eyes bulging as if they were about to pop right out of his head. Right at that moment, the testing gate shuddered violently before completely exploding. In a panic, the instructors rushed inside, shouting, "Hey, kid, are you okay?" But the moment they saw what was in front of them, they froze in their tracks. The demon heart lay motionless on the ground, completely lifeless. It was dead. While the two instructors were still examining it, Si-Chen had already quietly stepped outside, his expression completely calm, as if nothing had happened, with only a single thought crossing his mind. Maybe he went a little too hard, but in return, he got something far more valuable. A system notification popped up clear as day. Devour successful. A-rank Linglong Demon Heart. The power of Gluttony had directly devoured the demon heart's abilities. Stepping out of the gate, light washed over him, and as Si-Chen's eyes flashed, his newly acquired ability instantly activated. In his vision, the power ranks of everyone around him were laid bare, and his gaze locked onto one specific person, Gong Ting, mid-tier class. So, he was hiding his true strength too. But to the current Si-Chen, that was nothing special. Outside, the two instructors scrambled to reassure the crowd, explaining that the demon heart had likely died of sudden exhaustion. Today's test had to be suspended. Si-Chen's data might be glitched, and the remaining students would retest tomorrow. The moment those words left the instructor's mouth, Si-Chen's three roommates rushed over and threw their arms around him, not caring about the technical details. To them, Si-Chen was already a true genius. But before their celebration could even start, Jiangdi walked up, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I knew there was a glitch in the machine. As if a loser like you could ever be class with S-class potential." He even loudly accused Si-Chen of breaking the demon heart and ruining the test for everyone. But this time, Si-Chen didn't stay completely silent. Curling his fingers slightly, a faint yellow electrical current began to gather in his palm. His eyes turned ice cold as a dangerous thought crossed his mind. Should he just cripple this trash right here? Right then, Gong Ting stepped in, his face darkening, ordering Jiangdi to back off before turning to Si-Chen with a calm, composed smile. He offered an invitation as if everything was going exactly according to his plan. "Join my team, and let's tackle the graduation combat exam together. The highest record in school history will definitely be ours." Si-Chen stood there silently, staring straight at him without answering. His eyes grew incredibly deep, as if weighing a decision that would change the course of everything to come. Standing behind him, Ma Long couldn't hide his shock, whispering under his breath, "I can't believe Gong Ting is personally inviting Si-Chen to join his team. This is completely unprecedented." Meanwhile, Jiangdi's face turned incredibly ugly as his mind raced in a frantic panic. If Si-Chen actually joined, Someone would have to be kicked out of the team. How on earth was he going to explain that to the rest of the guys? The chance to secure first place in the graduation exam was practically in the bag for them, and countless people would kill for a spot. Yet here was a nobody like Si Chen, swooping in to take it away. The more he thought about it, the more furious he became. But in front of Gong Ting, he had to force a smile to save face. Placing a trembling hand on Si Chen's shoulder, he reluctantly tried to welcome him, but before he could even finish his sentence, his hand was violently brushed off. Si Chen's response was short and ice cold. Not interested. A single phrase that made the entire arena fall dead, silent. Jiang Di stood frozen, unable to believe his ears, and even Gong Ting frowned slightly, clearly not expecting to be rejected so bluntly. Jiang Di's rage instantly boiled over as he screamed, "Do you have any idea what you're turning down? Our team is the absolute strongest in the entire school." But Si Chen didn't even bother to look back, coldly tossing over his shoulder, "That has nothing to do with me." He turned and began to walk away, but not before casting a brief glance back at Jiang Di. His eyes flared crimson with intense pressure as his voice sank low. "You're too noisy. Don't annoy me again." That sheer aura sent shivers down the spines of everyone standing around. Ma Long quickly ran to catch up, leaving behind a crowd of stunned onlookers. Whispers and murmurs immediately broke out everywhere. "I can't believe Si Chen dared to reject Gong Ting. Talk about guts, that's the student council president he just blew off." But some onlookers began to speculate. Could he be planning to take the first place spot all by himself? After all, his recent mid-tier class result proved he was definitely no ordinary player. Meanwhile, Xiang Zuo and Xiang Yu walked alongside him, laughing hysterically, clowning on the priceless, murderous looks on those two guys' faces. It was incredibly satisfying. As for Si Chen, he remained quiet, completely ignoring the chatter around them. The four of them quickly made their exit from the noisy hall. Up in the stands, Yuan Long let out a soft sigh of regret. If those two had teamed up, they probably would have shattered the school records this year. Ling Yu merely offered a gentle smile, her eyes sparkling with pure amusement. The fact that they are not on the same team is exactly what makes this worth watching. This is nothing short of a direct declaration of war. Gong Ting has always been the one looking down from above, never having been rejected like this before. This time, his pride has definitely taken a hit. Sure enough, Gong Ting's face is no longer as calm as before, and a barely noticeable coldness flashes in his eyes. Beside him, Jiang Di still hasn't swallowed his anger. He mutters curses, claiming it was all just an equipment glitch, but Gong Ting says in a low voice, "What if it wasn't a glitch? Even if there is only a microscopic chance, he will never allow anyone to snatch away his #1 spot." Jiang Di immediately gets the message. He bows his head and offers to take care of Si Chen for him, but Gong Ting fires back with a cold question. "Do you really think I'm that petty?" This sends a cold sweat down Jiang Di's spine, making him quickly deny it. Gong Ting says nothing more. He simply turns and walks away, his voice indifferent. "I'm not in the mood today. Sort it out yourselves." But before leaving, he glances back, leaving behind a heavily loaded remark. "Whatever you do has nothing to do with me." Jiang Di stands frozen for a moment, then suddenly bursts out laughing, as if he has just realized something. The implication is crystal clear. There is no need to spell it out, but it is more than enough to let him know exactly what he needs to do. Not long after, sitting on the stairs, he listens to Jiang Bai's report. Si Chen has already left school and headed home without even grabbing a bite to eat. Hearing this, he crushes the soda can under his foot, his smile twisting maliciously. It seems heaven is on his side after all. Outside the school grounds is the perfect place to make a real move. This time, he doesn't plan on just giving a warning. Meanwhile, Si Chen walks into the trading center looking completely nonchalant, but his mind is spinning with precise calculations. In his past life, this very place would eventually become the country's largest resource hub, and right now, it is the perfect first stepping stone for his master plan. Those upgrade features are just an appetizer. The $10,000 isn't much, but it is enough to handle his immediate needs. However, the real game changer is the massive greatsword he just pulled out. At first, Xiao Qiang mocked him, thinking it was just a piece of trash, while Xiao Li kept guessing its rank, B rank, maybe even A rank. But all those guesses are instantly shut down by a man who just walked in, Qingzi. With just a single sentence from him, the entire room freezes. This is an S-rank gear. The atmosphere shifts instantly. Xiao Qiang stands there dumbfounded, his face turning pale. Xiao Li's eyes widen, completely unable to believe her own ears. An S-rank item. something that even the biggest power players in major guilds would fight to the death for. Yet here it is, in the hands of the poorest student in the dorms. Qingji doesn't hesitate for a second. He grabs Si Chen's hand, his attitude doing a complete 180. Welcome, valued guest. Please follow me to the VIP room. This is no longer a standard transaction. It has escalated to a negotiation between elite players in control of top-tier resources. Si Chen only offers a faint smile. He knows very well that the big fish has taken the bait. In his past life, Qingji was an incredibly formidable figure, the mastermind behind the entire Mithril Guild, controlling a massive resource network. To quickly access the dungeons and gain entry to restricted zones, having someone like him is absolutely essential. And now, that very man is actively bowing his head to him. Inside Qingji's private office, a cup of steaming hot tea is poured. Si Chen and Qingji sit opposite each other. Qingji speaks up. May I ask, esteemed guest, do you have any plans for this gear yet? Si Chen replies calmly and briefly, $1 million. Qingji asks back in surprise, just 1 million? You must know that even A-rank gear easily goes for millions of dollars on the market. An S-rank weapon like this is worth at least tens of millions. It would drive countless people into a frenzy. It's practically priceless. Si Chen clarifies, I want to use this S-rank gear as collateral to secure a $1 million loan, and I'll redeem it in 1 month. Qingji is stunned. Pawning an S-rank weapon. This is definitely not how an ordinary student thinks. Clearly, Si Chen has no intention of selling it. He wants to keep it for his own use later. This guy is either a hidden young master or a genuine genius. In short, he is definitely not someone to be trifled with. Si Chen continues, just 1 month. I'll repay the full amount by the deadline, plus an extra 10% interest. How about it? Hearing this, Qingzi immediately orders, Xiao Li, step outside for a moment. Once the door is closed, he says slowly, if I'm not mistaken, you're a student at the National Awakened University, and a graduating senior at that. As far as I know, the graduation combat exam is scheduled in 1 month, and the grand prize for first place is exactly $1 million, which matches your loan amount perfectly. A slight smile plays on his lips. In other words, you're already completely certain you'll take first place. Qingzi stands up, his eyes narrowing. You could clearly just wait a month to claim the prize money. Yet you're in such a rush to pawn a high-value item for a loan. That proves you're in desperate need of cash right now, maybe even pushed into a tight corner. His tone softens. In that case, I can offer you a loan of $1.5 million in cash, interest-free for 1 month. He extends his hand. Consider it my way of making a new friend. Si Chen is briefly taken aback by this unexpected offer. Qingji smiles and winks. Don't worry, I'll keep everything that happened today strictly confidential. I only hope that if you have any future trade needs, you'll give us priority. I promise to give you the best rates possible. What do you say? Si Chen couldn't help but feel a deep sense of admiration. With just a few scraps of information, they had already figured out his situation and needs. Yet they didn't take advantage of his desperation to lowball him. Instead, they offered even better terms to build a long-term partnership. No wonder he would go on to make the Mithril Exchange the absolute #1 in the world. If he wanted to destroy Wrath, he couldn't do it all alone. First, he had to find trustworthy allies to team up with. The moment both sides finalized the deal, the atmosphere in the room completely shifted. A magic circle lit up beneath their feet, sealing the trade. Qingji held the contract with a deeply satisfied look on his face. The system notified him that the contract was active and the funds had been transferred. Si Chen glanced at his phone, and only when he saw the exact balance did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. But Qingji's curiosity wasn't satisfied yet. His eyes lingered on Si Chen as he asked bluntly, now that you've pawned off such a powerful weapon, what do you plan to use for the graduation exam? If you need anything, we can easily back you up. We're not short of B rank or even A rank gear. Si Chen simply shook his head, turning down the offer without a second thought. Then, he raised his hand. With a sudden flash of light, a weapon identical to the previous one materialized in his grasp. He spoke as if it were nothing. I've got another one. His words left the room dead silent for a few seconds before everyone's jaws collectively hit the floor. It was the kind of mind-blowing scene that made you want to scream, this is ridiculous. Even Qingji lost his cool. As he walked Si Chen to the door, he couldn't stop marveling at him to be this capable at such a young age. The kid was definitely something else. Turning around, Just when they thought it was over, Si Chen stopped after a few paces. Remembering something, he turned back and calmly announced that he wanted to buy a few more things. Not long after, he was in the back of a taxi, heading out. His destination was the long-distance train station in Kangcheng County. Standing amidst the bustling crowd, old memories suddenly came rushing back. In his past life, because they were dirt poor, the two siblings had struggled to survive for a long time. Back then, he hadn't even awakened yet. With no place willing to hire him, he had to take on whatever odd jobs he could find, just to scrape by. His bank account was constantly at rock bottom. The two of them had to pinch every single penny. He still vividly remembered the day Si-yoon received her admission letter, only to quietly crumple it up. It wasn't because she lacked the talent, but because the school was too far away, and she didn't want to be a burden to her brother. In the end, she gave up on her dream of higher education altogether. Back in the present, Si Chen stood in the station, a wave of anxiety washing over him. She should have arrived by now. Just as he was about to turn and search for her, a familiar voice called out from behind him. Seriously, how many times do I have to tell you? When you're picking someone up, you wait at the exit, not the entrance. Si-yoon panted as she ran up, dragging her suitcase and scolding him. The same energetic girl, the same familiar, nagging tone. Si Chen froze, his eyes widening in pure disbelief. The sister he had failed to protect in his past life was now standing right in front of him. Without saying a word, he rushed forward and wrapped his arms tightly around her. The sudden embrace caught Si-yoon completely off guard, leaving her utterly bewildered. But to Si Chen, this was the moment he had desperately waited 7 years for. A rare, relieved smile spread across his face. "I've finally found you again," Si-yoon, unable to comprehend the depth of his emotions, only felt that her brother was acting incredibly weird today. She wriggled free while grumbling, playfully poking him in the ribs until he had to let go. Tossing her bag to him, she teased him as they walked. "You've been totally spaced out the past 2 days. Did you get rejected by a girl or something?" Si Chen quickly denied it, but she didn't buy it, simply dragging him along toward home. All along the way, Si-yoon babbled endlessly about how brutal the upcoming test was going to be and how stressed she felt. Si Chen just listened in silence, his gaze softening as he looked at his sister. At this moment, only one resolve filled his heart. This time, he would absolutely never let her suffer or lose out on anything again. Down a deserted alleyway, the student council gang had already gathered. Leading them was none other than Jiang Di. He stood there with an irritated scowl, listening to his lackeys anxiously warn him that going too far might cause serious trouble. But Jiang Di merely sneered. He had originally planned on just giving the kid a gentle warning, but Si Chen's attitude had left a bitter taste in his mouth. A bunch of bottom-tier E-rank trash, daring to act all high and mighty, even looking down on him, remembering the words, "You're too damn noisy, stop bothering me." Jiang Di's teeth clenched in rage. He instantly ordered his men to beat Si Chen within an inch of his life, this time, and even permanently cripple him so he couldn't take the graduation exam. As the school's top cloud class assassin, he was confident this would be a total walk in the park. Meanwhile, Si Chen was still casually walking home with Si-yoon. His sister still felt that her brother was acting off today, nothing like his usual self. She even wondered out loud if the exam pressure was getting to him, before quickly turning around to comfort him. She rambled on with all sorts of silly stories to cheer him up, even bringing up the advice Si Chen had once given her about seizing opportunities in life, and even started humming a little tune, which brought a warm chuckle out of Si Chen. An indescribable emotion welled up inside him. She was so sharp they had just reunited, and she already noticed a change, though she had no idea everything was different now. Their miserable life was over, but right then, Tran's instincts flared, signaling a clear, sudden danger. He immediately realized someone was tailing them. Worse, they were from the student council. He didn't even need to turn around to know exactly who it was. He coldly thought to himself, "You actually dared to follow me here?" Without a word, Tran pulled out a pair of earbuds. Gently placing them in Van's ears, he spoke in a perfectly calm voice, telling her there was a really great song that just came out. He wanted her to give it a listen. Though a bit surprised, she was quickly swept away by the melody, completely unaware that anything was wrong. Meanwhile, Tran slowly turned around, his gaze turning ice cold. As the music began to play, the silent battle officially began. Thanks to his active skill, the stats and info of everyone in front of him flashed clearly into view. To him, they were no longer ordinary students, they were just targets. As the music built to a crescendo, mana began to swirl around Tran's body. Memories of his past life flashed through his mind, the pain of losing his last remaining family member back then. He had to reincarnate just to get a second chance with her. And now these punks dared to threaten the one thing he swore to protect. In the blink of an eye, Tran lunged. His opening kick sent one thug flying, his face completely caving in. Before the others could even react, panic set in. But he wasn't about to give them a single second to breathe. His relentless strikes were too fast for the naked eye to track, knocking them down one by one like literal punching bags. One desperate fool tried to blindside him from behind, but the second he got close, Tran grabbed his arm and snapped it with a sickening crack. Before his scream could even leave his throat, a follow-up punch shattered his jaw, leaving his face completely mangled. The music kept playing, turning the fight into a one-sided massacre. With every beat of the crescendo, another body hit the floor. Standing in the back, Kwang Ditch's smug confidence instantly turned to sheer terror. He couldn't comprehend what he was witnessing. The kid he had completely looked down on was somehow a monster. In a matter of seconds, all his goons were laid out cold on the pavement. Tran took a slow, deliberate step toward Kwang Ditch. Closing the distance between them, Kwang Ditch began to stammer, trying to act tough by blustering that he was a peak-tier Cloud Summit assassin, but his trembling voice betrayed his absolute terror. The first punch connected, snapping his head violently to the side and sending him flying. Before he could even try to push himself up, Tran was already standing over him. Another brutal fist smashed straight into his jaw, shattering his face before unleashing a relentless, merciless barrage. Every single strike carried terrifying force, knocking out teeth and leaving him dazed with his eyes rolling back. His body was tossed around like a rag doll. Finally, Kwang Ditch was sent flying, crashing brutally into the ground as debris exploded around him. He lay there clinging to life, his blurry vision catching the terrifying sight of Tran slowly approaching. Right now, the boy looked like a demon incarnate. Cold, crimson eyes stared down at him, and his voice carried a crushing weight. "I already told you not to mess with me. Are you deaf or just stupid?" All Kwang Ditch had left was pure despair, lying helplessly as he felt. Every single bone in his body shatter. With no feeling left in his legs, only one thought consumed his mind. The test results from earlier were real. Tran was definitely not a rank D. He trembled, trying to beg for mercy, but he was cut off before he could even get the words out. "Shut up," Tran spat coldly. "Say one more word, and you're dead." That icy glare sent a shiver straight down Kwang Ditch's spine. For the first time in his life, he realized the person standing over him was truly capable of killing him. Terrified to his core, he looked at Tran as if staring at a literal monster. He couldn't comprehend how a mere student could possess such a terrifying, suffocating bloodlust. Tran leaned down, his eyes freezing cold. Every single word he spoke hammered into the thug's brain. "You better listen carefully to what I'm about to say. I don't care what you do or how pathetic your lives are, but never show your faces around me again. And above all, don't you ever dare involve my sister." A cold blade lightly brushed against the corner of Kwang Ditch's mouth, leaving a warning that etched itself into his very soul. "If you ever come near us again, I will make every single one of you disappear from this world." Terrified and broken, Kwang Ditch could do nothing but nod frantically through his pain. Tran stood up, tossed the knife aside, and turned to walk away. He left behind a broken shell of a man. A short distance away, the music in Tuvan's earbuds was slowly winding down. As the melody softened, carrying a strange, melancholic loneliness, she stood frozen, not understanding why tears were suddenly rolling down her cheeks. It was just a song, but it made her chest feel incredibly heavy, as if reaching into some deep, forgotten part of her soul. She couldn't help but wonder why her brother had felt so distant lately, like he had been through things she couldn't possibly imagine. Determined to ask him about it, she spun around, only to find Tran standing right behind her, holding a beautifully wrapped gift box. He flashed a warm, gentle smile, holding out the present as if nothing had happened. "Little Van, this is for you." Her eyes instantly lit up when she opened it, revealing the latest high-tech mana pen. She was both thrilled and utterly bewildered. This thing was insanely expensive, and she immediately wanted to know where the money came from. But behind Tran's calm smile, his hand still stained with fresh blood quietly clenched into a fist. Deep down, he had only one thought. In his past life, he couldn't protect her or save her dreams. But in this life, things would be different. Back at home, Tuvan excitedly tested the pen. With every stroke, her drawings transformed into three-dimensional images floating in midair. She was as thrilled as a kid opening a birthday present. As for Tran, He ate his noodles while watching his little sister, a rare smile gracing his face. For him, seeing her happy was all that mattered. Even so, Tuvan couldn't stop worrying about money, but Tran reassured her that the rent was already taken care of. He claimed he was doing business with some friends, but it was a terribly clumsy lie. Tuvan looked at her brother, highly skeptical, but chose not to push him for answers, because that smile on his face, the one that had vanished for so long, was finally back. She gently sat down beside him, placed her hand on his shoulder, and whispered a simple piece of advice. No matter what happens, please don't push yourself too hard. Tran nodded quietly without saying another word. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, the atmosphere was a stark contrast. Kwang Dich was rushed to the hospital, but his condition was critical. Over half of the bones in his body had been completely shattered. Even the best healers in the business couldn't get him back on his feet in time for the exam. Standing before a massive fish tank, Kung Din's eyes darkened as he listened to the report. He never expected Kwang Dich to act on his own and hunt down Tran, let alone meet such a gruesome end. Beside him, Lin Vu sat in silence before speaking up. Well, it looks like he's definitely going to miss the graduation exam this time. Kung Din didn't care in the slightest. He simply muttered with cold indifference. Losing a useless pawn just makes our squad more streamlined. Right at that moment, another figure approached them. It was Kung Huyen, the director of the Career Development Office at the National Awakened University. He looked at Kung Din, his voice lowering. It's Tran again. The internal test results have confirmed that he really achieved C rank. What's more, he's the only person in the entire school with a higher rank than you. Hearing this, Kung Din's eyes flickered with a hint of emotion, but he quickly regained his composure. Kung Huyen went on to remind him that this time, their family had even invited the vice president of the alliance to watch the graduation exam. We absolutely cannot let anyone steal your spotlight. He sighed, adding that the newly vacant slot on the team would have to be filled by his granddaughter. Kung Din let out a low chuckle, his voice quiet but dripping with confidence. You're worrying too much, uncle. Do they really think I was going all out during that evaluation? Just wait until the practical exam. I'll show everyone who the real apex predator is. The scene shifts to the dormitory late at night. Tran had just stepped out of the shower, his mind constantly calculating his next moves. With today's training session wrapped up and the money issue temporarily sorted out, everything was finally on track. As long as he passed the graduation exam and claimed the reward of 1 million, he could easily pay off his loan from Than Tree. Besides, maintaining that connection would be incredibly valuable in the future. He lay down on his bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. He only had 1 month left, which meant he needed to keep leveling up as fast as humanly possible. But the moment he closed his eyes, a familiar sound chimed in his head. The system booted up, and his surroundings instantly warped. In the blink of an eye, Tran found himself standing before a colossal magic tower gate. The previous test results flashed in his mind. Even his weakest class, the Sky Spear Sovereign, had reached C rank. As for the Purgatory Rakshasa, despite being an S rank class, it had yet to display its full power, and even the system couldn't accurately measure its limits. This meant his true upper limit remained a complete mystery. Tran pulled out a key, and light instantly burst forth. The system confirmed it was a triple S rank temporal rift key. Once the key was activated, the massive magic tower gate groaned open inch by inch, unleashing an ancient aura that made the very air tremble. He stepped inside, his expression calm but filled with anticipation. Today, he was determined to find out exactly where his limits lay. But the moment he crossed the barrier, Tran froze in his tracks. The scene before him was entirely unexpected. This wasn't a normal battle arena. It was a place that felt both chillingly familiar and utterly terrifying. He frowned slightly, wondering what on earth this place was. The moment he crossed the threshold of the magic tower, Tran was thrown into a space so vast it sent shivers down his spine. The Fallen Star Wastelands, a place where everything carried a suffocating weight. Within a split second, an invisible pressure crushed down on his entire body. His knees buckled, and he nearly collapsed right then and there. The gravity here was far from normal. It was nearly 10 times heavier than the outside world, making even the slightest movement feel like dragging a massive boulder. He immediately realized that this environment wasn't for a standard trial. It was designed to push human limits to the absolute brink. The gate behind him had vanished, leaving no way out. The only way to escape was to defeat the boss of this floor, but under such extreme conditions, his strength was choked down to just 30%. If he didn't adapt quickly, defeat was inevitable. While Tran was still assessing the situation, A sudden wave of murderous intent surged toward him. A massive spectral lion emerged, its savage eyes locking onto him as it roared and charged straight ahead. Closing in on him instantly, a massive spectral lion appeared, roaring ferociously with savage eyes as it lunged straight at him. He wanted to rip the prey in front of him to shreds. Without a moment's hesitation, he instantly switched classes, his body surging with power as his speed and reflexes drastically increased. But even with that boost, in this high-gravity environment, his every move was still visibly slowed down. The beast's pounce was incredibly fast and powerful. Tran barely managed to dodge to the side, sliding hard across the ground. With no time to waste, he launched an immediate counterattack. He swung his electric blade, aiming straight for the creature's neck, but the outcome made him freeze. The strike missed the vital point, failing to trigger the paralysis effect. It was a minor slip-up, but in a situation like this, it was extremely dangerous. The phantom beast immediately retaliated, using its massive weight to pin him to the ground. His breathing turned heavy. Only now did Tran realize that under these conditions, a speed-focused class like an assassin was practically useless. Yet, he didn't panic. His gaze remained chillingly calm, just as the beast bared its fangs, about to crush his arm. Tran completed his transition to the Purgatory Rakshasa class. In a single breath, the tables turned, and his strength and stamina skyrocketed. He used sheer brute force to fling the phantom beast away. Instantly, he went from being pinned to completely dominating the fight. Punch after heavy punch rained down like sledgehammers, each blow amplified by the crushing gravity of this space. This sent his destructive power through the roof. Tran gave his opponent zero room to breathe, driving it deeper into the dirt with every single strike. As he prepared to deliver the final blow, he made an astonishing realization. In this high-gravity environment, the force of his punch had been amplified 60 times. With one last devastating slam, the ground shattered, and the phantom beast breathed its last. Tran's breath was ragged, and his arms were bleeding from numerous wounds. But his gaze only grew sharper and colder. The system notification chimed, announcing he had obtained the phantom beast bone. His experience surged, and his level jumped from 10 to 11. However, what made him frown wasn't the victory, but the anomaly. Afterward, there was no sign of devourment, and no portal to the next floor appeared. The surrounding area fell deathly quiet, and a spine-chilling thought flashed through his mind. Something was terribly wrong. Right then, a tiny white crack appeared in midair, rapidly expanding into a dimensional portal right behind his back. Tran spun around, his pupils shrinking in horror. Inside the portal wasn't an exit, but countless opening eyes, all staring right at him. Something far more terrifying than the previous boss was preparing to step through. The moment he sensed the anomaly, Tran quickly whipped around. A chilling thought flashed through his head. Could it be that the real boss hadn't even shown up yet? But what answered him wasn't a single enemy. It was a full-blown nightmare. From within the portal, countless phantom beasts poured out like a tidal wave, their eyes savage and their killing intent suffocatingly dense. Tran froze for a second. Just moments ago, he had to use every ounce of his strength to kill just one of them. And now, those exact monsters were nothing but common mobs. Before he could react, the horde of monsters swarmed him. One lunged forward and bit directly into his shoulder, while the others climbed on top of him without hesitation. They tore and gnawed at his flesh like crazy, treating him like prey cornered with nowhere left to run. Facing the brink of death, Tran finally understood the true meaning of the words the Rakshasa of Hell once spoke. Once that door opened, what awaited him wasn't power, but endless agony. Yet amidst that bone-shattering pain, his will refused to break. A cold voice echoed in his head. Endure everything and conquer all. Instantly, the vision shattered. Tran bolted upright in bed, gasping for air as if he had just crawled out of hell, his back drenched in sweat. His eyes still held a trace of lingering terror. He touched his body. Everything was intact, but the pain from the dream felt terrifyingly real, as though his flesh was still being torn apart. Tran clenched his fists, his gaze gradually turning resolute. If he wanted to get stronger, there were no shortcuts. No matter how lonely and brutal this purgatory path was, he had to keep moving forward. And this was only the beginning. Transitioning to another day, Friday, May 20th, 2027, in the auditorium of the National Awakened University. The atmosphere was livelier than ever as all the students gathered, preparing for their practical graduation combat test. Up on the spectator stands, Kung Huyen casually sipped his water, his eyes scanning the crowd below, as if watching an amusing play. Down below, the students kept whispering. Rumor had it that not only teachers, but high-ranking officials from the Guild Alliance would also be watching live. Tran sat quietly in a corner, taking it all in, fully understanding why the rules had changed this year. Each team had to have at least 5 members, with at least one reaching high E rank. Clearly, this wasn't just a simple exam, it was a public talent selection. When Kung Huyen announced that the rank results had been sent to everyone's wristbands, the entire hall instantly buzzed with excitement. Each student quickly checked their information. The system screen clearly displayed their name and rank. But then, a gasp of shock came from Ma Long's direction. Something wasn't right. Looking at the screen, he froze in disbelief. Tran, low E rank. It wasn't just Ma Long, everyone around them quickly realized something was dead wrong. Just moments ago, his result was clearly a C rank, but now it had plummeted to the absolute bottom. The whispers quickly turned into open mockery and laughter. Turns out that earlier test was just a machine glitch. How could a loser like him ever get a C rank? Instantly, the vibe in the room shifted from shock to pure disgust. Some even felt stupid for actually considering joining his team. In a high-stakes exam like this, nobody wanted to carry a useless E-rank deadweight. Over in the corner, Kung Din watched everything play out in silence. He didn't say a word, while Kung Huyen smirked, his eyes full of dark intentions. He had already planned everything out. His nephew was still far too naive, with no real grasp of how to wield power and manipulate people. And this time, he was going to show him how it is done. With just a tiny bit of meddling, his opponent wouldn't even get a chance to step onto the stage. The instructor's voice cut through the noisy room, ordering everyone to hurry up and finish forming their teams. But the more he rushed them, the more chaotic the hall became. Suddenly, the crowd swarmed toward Kung Din like a disturbed beehive. Some begged to join, others shamelessly promoted themselves, and a few even humbled themselves to the point of begging just to stand in his group, happy to do whatever it took. The non-stop brown-nosed begging filled the air, making the atmosphere suffocatingly loud. Annoyed, Kung Than snapped at the crowd to shut up, reminding them that their team only had one spot left. After a frantic scramble, Kung Din's team was finally set. The 5 of them bumped fists to confirm, a green light flashed, and the system announced that their team was successfully formed. Meanwhile, in another corner, the vibe was the exact opposite. Tran's group still couldn't pull together enough members. Ma Long let out a heavy sigh, exhausted after asking group after group, only to get rejected every single time. Hang Ta clutched his head in panic. If they couldn't get 5 people, they wouldn't even qualify to take the graduation exam. What baffled them most was Tran's evaluation. Based on his previous performance, there was no way he should be stuck at the absolute lowest rank. But the brutal reality was right in front of them, and the rules required at least one member to be a high-tier E rank. Meanwhile, their dorm had 3 low-tier E ranks, leaving them almost completely isolated from everyone else. Tran watched in silence, putting the pieces together. This was no coincidence. Someone was deliberately targeting them. Just then, another group called out to Hang Ta, inviting him to join them to fill their roster, while throwing in a few nasty insults, mocking him that staying with his current team was career suicide. He was backed into a corner. If Hang Ta just nodded, he'd save himself. But the other 3 would be completely out of the game. Yet, after a moment of hesitation, Hang Ta chose to stay, flatly turning down the offer and declaring he would never abandon his roommates. This choice sent the other group stomping off in anger. Ma Long sank deeper into despair, realizing almost all the other teams were full, leaving them with 0 chance. Tran still stood there silently, but the look in his eyes began to shift. He glanced up at Kung Huyen in the stands, the man who controlled the rules, and a member of Kung Din's clan. Suddenly, it all clicked. The rule change, the grade tampering it, was all designed to block him, ensuring no one could threaten Kung Din's top spot. But Tran didn't get angry. Instead, he became eerily calm. If they were going to play dirty right in the open, then there was no point in holding back anymore. To prove his power, he didn't need their stupid test anyway. With that thought, his aura suddenly shifted as his class transfer finalized. Before Ma Long could even process what was happening, Tran stepped forward, his chilling gaze making people instinctively back away. In this academy, an unwritten rule always stood. Anyone could challenge anyone to a one-on-one duel, anywhere, anytime. It was the most direct way to prove your strength. This was a massive provocation, and most people would back down, but there was one person who definitely wouldn't. Every eye in the room locked onto Tran, the air growing thick with tension. Kung Din stood his ground, his eyes darkening as he realized what Tran was planning. If he could beat him right in front of everyone, all doubts would vanish, and all their sneaky schemes would instantly go down the drain. As Tran finished speaking, his cold gaze swept over the crowd, looking ready to use sheer force to make everyone rethink their choices. But just as the tension reached a boiling point, a female voice cut through the silence. Lin Vu stepped forward with a confident smile, asking bluntly, "Your team is still short on members, right? I'd like to join." As soon as she said it, the whole hall erupted. No one expected the vice president to voluntarily side with the absolute weakest team. She calmly added that she'd been a D rank since middle school, so she definitely wouldn't be a drag on the team. Ma Long and Hang Ta stood frozen, unable to believe their ears, while Kung Than gasped in shock, and even Kung Huyan nearly choked on his water as the situation spiraled completely out of control. Whispers immediately spread like wildfire throughout the hall. From Ling Wu's mysterious identity to the fact that she was a genius from the Shenge kingdom, her sudden arrival shook everyone to their core. But Gong Xuan quickly regained his composure, immediately trying to block her by citing the regulations, arguing that since Ling Wu was just an exchange student who had never gone through the official evaluations, she wasn't qualified to compete. The tension in the room instantly spiked. But right then, Principal Yuan Lung made a surprise entrance, leaving the entire hall stunned. He didn't just show up, he stood firmly on the side of fairness, smoothly shutting down Gong Xuan's rigid handling of the situation. His voice was calm and gentle, but every single word cut right to the heart of the matter. If a student were to lose an opportunity because of external technicalities, it would be the academy itself that should take the blame. Gong Xuan was left completely speechless, knowing deep down that the principal had seen right through his shady schemes. In the end, he was forced to back down and change the rules on the spot, allowing the teams that were previously disqualified to participate. The moment the decision was announced, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Xichen didn't say another word, simply bumping fists with his three teammates. As the system confirmed their party formation, Xiang Zuo jumped up in pure joy. Ma Long threw an arm around Xichen's shoulder in excitement, and even handed the captain position over to him on the spot. From up above, Yuan Lung watched them quietly, a flicker of amusement passing through his eyes, while Ling Wu just smiled, as if everything was going exactly as planned. On one side was the strongest team in the academy's history, led by Gong Ding, and on the other was the absolute weakest group in the entire school. The contrast was so extreme that everyone was dying to see how it would play out. Right after that, the system announced that the captains could now select their dungeons. But before anyone could even react, a confirmation chime rang out. Someone had already made their choice. Everyone turned their heads toward the screen at the same time, freezing in disbelief when they saw Xichen's team's name sitting right at the top of the list. Ma Long immediately panicked and rushed over, grabbing him and demanding he cancel the selection. Xiang Zuo's face went completely pale as he grabbed Xichen's shirt, practically screaming, asking if he had any idea what he had just picked. But Xichen stood there completely unfazed, his eyes locked onto the digital screen, as if everything was unfolding exactly according to his calculations. At this point, the graduation exam was no longer just a regular test, it was turning into a literal war zone. For the first time, all the students were forced to team up and step into real-world dungeons, where a single wrong decision could cost them everything. The grading system was also incredibly brutal. You had to clear out every single monster to get maximum points, leave even one behind, and your score would get heavily penalized. Defeating the boss would grant full bonus points, but if you failed to take it down, all your hard work would go down the drain. The time limit added even more pressure. The faster you cleared it, the higher your score, but lag behind by just a few minutes, and your grade would plummet. The most critical factor was the dungeon rank. The higher the rank, the bigger the bonus points, but the danger skyrocketed. Picking the wrong one was basically a suicide mission. Normally, teams only dared to choose rank F or at most rank E to secure a safe score. In theory, rank E could get you up to 100 points, while rank F had a much lower score ceiling. But the rewards were what drove everyone absolutely crazy. The highest scoring team would get directly scouted by the Imperial Guild, and the MVP of that team would secure a management position along with 1 million in prize money, changing their life overnight. Hearing this, everyone understood why the entire hall was so incredibly tense. Those who knew the history of the exam even brought up that the highest score ever recorded was only 90 points, set by a genius who had now become the head of a major, powerful faction. Even a rank E dungeon was difficult enough that it required several rank D players working together to clear it. So everyone naturally assumed that if anyone was going to break the record this year, it would definitely be Gong Ding's team. But just as everyone was whispering, the system suddenly announced that a team had already finalized their dungeon selection. The speed was so shocking that it startled everyone, and the name that popped up left them completely stunned. It was Si Chen's team. Before anyone could even process what was happening, his selection flashed on the screen. A rank D dungeon. The entire hall practically exploded, because up until now, no student had ever dared to touch that difficulty level. Some thought he made a typo, while others straight up called him a lunatic. His own teammates were losing their minds just as much. Ma Long grabbed him, demanding answers, while Xiang Zuo looked like he wanted to back out on the spot. But Si Chen remained terrifyingly calm, simply stating that he had thought this through very carefully. Before the dust could even settle, another shockwave hit. Gong Ding's team had also selected a rank D dungeon. Now, everyone realized this was no longer just an exam, it was an all-out, head-to-head clash. Jeers and mocking laughter started spreading through the crowd. Some claimed that Si Chen's team would fall apart on its own, because no sane person would follow him on that suicide mission. But the unexpected happened. After a brief silence, Ma Long was the first to speak up, saying that if they had stuck together for 4 years, then they were going all the way this time too. Xiang Yu nodded along, agreeing that since they were already at the bottom of the rankings anyway, it didn't matter what rank they chose, so they might as well take a massive gamble. Even Xiang Zuo, though trembling, grit his teeth and agreed, muttering that they had to graduate either way. When the system confirmed the entire team's agreement, Si Chen was genuinely surprised. He flatly admitted that he chose rank D because he wanted to win the MVP title, even though it meant dragging them all into extreme danger. But the only response was absolute determination. Once you've stepped onto this ship, there is no turning back. Right then, Kung Din stepped forward. With eyes as cold as daggers, he directly declared that the MVP title belonged to him. Tran turned and stared right back, refusing to back down. As the two locked eyes, no words were needed to know that this clash was absolutely inevitable. Even the onlookers, like Lin Vu and the principal, were starting to pay close attention, because on one side was the absolute strongest team, and on the other, the group deemed the absolute weakest, yet they dared to choose the most dangerous path of all. Time was running out. They had only half a month left before the exam. While other teams threw themselves into skill training and combat simulations, Tran dragged his group to practice seemingly pointless routines, like running, dodging, reflex drills, and explosive stamina training. At first, everyone was confused and constantly complained, but he made it crystal clear. When you enter a real dungeon, what actually kills you isn't a lack of skills, but fear and a split-second delay in your reactions. Everything learned in the simulator is just theory. When you're facing a monster you've never seen before, everything crumbles if your body can't adapt in time. Instinct is what decides whether you live or die. These exercises aren't for show. They're meant to train the body to react before the brain even has time to think. He also laid bare a truth everyone knew but no one wanted to admit. Resources and opportunities always belong to those born at the top. They'll pay any price to widen the gap between themselves and everyone else. For those with nothing, the only path forward is to risk their lives and climb up. When Hongta asked what they were supposed to do then, Tran gave a simple, clear answer: join the Imperial Guild and break through their current social class. And this graduation exam was their only shortcut. There was no other choice. Looking at his team, he said with absolute conviction, "This time, we must win." With only 15 days left before the assessment, Tran practically vanished from the ordinary world. He plunged headfirst into the Dream Demon Tower, where every passing second pushed a person to their absolute limit. In the Ko Nguyen Trui Tin space, he charged straight ahead, swinging his blade to slash the Huyen Lin Su, though he paid for it with a deep scratch across his face. Time waits for no one, and each passing day was bought with blood and sweat. 10 days before the exam, memories flashed of Tran and his teammates pushing themselves to exhaustion, legs heavy as lead but still gritting their teeth to move forward. Only 5 laps left. The shout echoed through heavy, ragged breathing. Snapping back to reality, he charged once more, bringing his electric blade down without a single shred of hesitation. Elsewhere, Kung Din was also training like a mutant, each sword and straighterst, cold and sharp. 2 different people, 2 different paths, but both heading toward the exact same battle. 5 days before the exam, Tran was drenched in sweat, straining his back as he lifted weights, counting the reps through gritted teeth. 101. 102. There were no shortcuts, only pushing oneself to the absolute limit. 3 days before, Kung Din's eyes burned with murderous intent, the sword in his hand glowing fiery red, his aura no longer resembling that of a mere student. 2 days before, the system announced that Tran had reached level 16, and his electric attribute assassin class was visibly enhanced, but to him, that was still not enough. 1 day before the exam, covered in wounds, he stood there with an incredibly chilling gaze, uttering only one line: "The real battle starts now." On June 17th, 2027, the practical combat exam officially began. Inside the prep room, drones continuously buzzed with instructions, reminding everyone to check their wristbands and gear. The tension in the air was suffocating. Everyone knew this wasn't just an exam, it was the ultimate turning point of their lives. Outside the administration building, high-ranking figures began to arrive one by one. Principal Nguyen Lung went out to greet them personally. The president of the Imperial Guild was also there, leaving the students watching from above completely awestruck. But when a man stepped out from the car behind them, the entire area fell into a dead silence. It was Cavendis, the vice president of the Guild Alliance, a legendary figure whom most people would never get to meet in their entire lives. His appearance made everyone realize that if they could just catch his eye, their future would change in an instant. Kung Huyen quickly announced the status of the exam. 184 students were split into 28 teams, with most choosing F-rank dungeons for safety. A few opted for E-rank. But what shocked everyone was that 2 teams had chosen D-rank dungeons. Even the Alliance members frowned at the sheer danger of it, but once the choice was made, there was no going back. Footage from inside the dungeons was broadcast live. In the F-rank dungeons, students were already struggling with minor monsters. In the E-rank ones, even the weakest mobs were as strong as low-level bosses, causing many to panic and request a forfeit. But all of this was just the warm-up, because in the D-rank dungeon where Tran was heading, the real danger was only just beginning. At the peak of Van Sam, the moment the teams set foot on the ground, they were blocked by a bat-monkey demon sporting a twisted, distorted grin. Its eyes were so full of malice that it sent shivers down everyone's spines. Tran instantly recognized it as a Van Chuyen-type monster that attacks in packs. They were incredibly fast and extremely lethal when diving from the air. And just as expected, in the blink of an eye, the entire swarm plunged down. Screams rang out as the team scattered to dodge in an instant. Some rolled to the side, others leaped up, while some covered their heads to avoid the onslaught, dodging in pure panic. But strangely enough, not a single one of them took a fatal hit. Just as everyone is trying to wrap their heads around what the hell is going on, boom, a dead bat-monkey demon is violently slammed onto the snow. Then another, and another. The entire group is left frozen in shock. In just a single moment, Tran has single-handedly taken down 3 low-tier monsters. Tran doesn't slow down for even a second. He speaks calmly, his voice not loud, but clear enough for the whole team to hear over the howling wind and roaring monsters. Your current strength isn't enough to handle them. Just stand back and protect yourselves. Right after that, a bolt of lightning crackles around his body, a cold blue light tearing through the air. His voice is sharp and absolute. Leave the rest to me. Instantly, the battlefield plunges into absolute chaos again as bat-monkey demons rain down one after another. The group can only desperately dodge and defend themselves in a passive struggle. While dodging, Hang Ta stumbles and crashes into the base of a tree. He dazes out for a few seconds before a realization hits him. It turns out, from the very beginning, Tran never expected them to be of any help. All he wanted was to force them to stand on their own 2 feet and survive. The actual fight was never in their hands to begin with. Meanwhile, Tran is practically sweeping the entire battlefield alone up front. His speed, reflexes, and raw strength are pushed to their absolute limits. Every swing of his blade is clean and ruthless, yet the monsters keep swarming in, wave after wave. The more he fights, the further he advances, and the more overwhelming he becomes. It is as if this entire area is being utterly crushed by him alone. Only now does Hang Ta truly feel the massive gap between them with his own eyes. Before, when Ma Long said Tran was strong, he didn't buy it, but witnessing it firsthand, he realizes this isn't just strong, it is a whole different level. A person like him doesn't look like a student at all. He looks like a seasoned warrior who has survived countless life and death battles. Mid-battle, a bat-monkey demon suddenly charges straight at Hang Ta. A warning shout rings out, but there is almost no time to react. Right then, a burst of flames rips through the air. Hang Ta growls, his hands bursting into a fiery red glow as he grabs the monster's right leg. Ma Long! Ma Long immediately gets the hint, standing up amidst the chaos. They can't just rely on Tran alone anymore. The moment he speaks, he unleashes his frost aura. Waves of freezing mist spread out, slowing the monster's movements down. Hang Hu also lunges forward, binding the target with thick vines. Even though the monster thrashes around and snaps them, those few seconds of crowd control are more than enough to create an opening. Right at this moment, Hang Ta roars, condensing a brilliant red fireball in his hand before throwing it with all his might as an explosive flame bomb. An explosion erupts, and the flames swallow the monster's body. The drone system immediately sounds a notification, confirming a successful kill. All three of them collapse to the ground, panting heavily, but their eyes are filled with pure excitement. For the first time, they actually experience what it feels like to kill a low-tier monster with their own hands. Hang Ta props himself up, exhausted, but looking at Tran with a smug grin. See that? You're not the only one who can do this. Tran only gives a slight smile, not saying much, his eyes still fixed ahead. Nice job. Right after, an announcement rings out: all minor monsters in the area have been eliminated. In the observation room, Kung Huyen's jaw drops, completely unable to believe his eyes. No way. Those students clearly have zero real combat experience. Kung Lam remains silent, his eyes darkening as if calculating something much deeper. Meanwhile, Cavendish stands with folded arms, his eyes locked on the screen showing Tran. A slight smirk plays on his lips. This kid is interesting. Then, his eyes narrow slightly, as if he has just spotted something strangely familiar. But wait, why does he look so much like someone from the past? Cavendish tilts his head slightly, his gaze lingering on the screen as he slowly speaks. His name is Tran, right? I'll remember that. Just a simple sentence, yet it instantly freezes the air in the room. Kung Lam is startled for a brief moment, while Kung Huyen feels a shiver run down his spine, his entire body visibly tensing up. Reacting quickly, he hastily changes the subject, pointing to the screen with a forced laugh. Everyone, look. The other team that chose the low-tier monster cave has already pushed deep inside. On the screen, a fierce battle is raging. Sig gently pushes up his glasses, his eyes analyzing the scene thoroughly, cooperating like that. It is almost the style of a professional guild team. Cavendish lets out a soft murmur of interest and leans back, his voice tinged with amusement. Interesting. It looks like we've got plenty of promising seeds this year as well. Kung Huyen bows his head, a faint smirk forming on his lips, though his mind is elsewhere. He thinks to himself, the game has only just begun, and the best part is yet to come. In another area, the low-tier miasma mushroom cave is erupting into utter chaos. Engan Lin stands in the middle of the battlefield, playing her instrument alone. Each note conjures a dark, eerie mist that blows back the toxic gas, weakening all enemy strength with her ultimate move, Decaying Elegy. Immediately after, Ngiamha raises his hand to unleash an explosion of spiritual energy, launching the mushroom monsters high into the air as he shouts for his captain. Kung Din strikes instantly. His sword flashes like lightning, and with a few clean slashes, he crushes all the miasma mushrooms into ash. As everything settles, he calmly sheathes his sword. Watching the battlefield dissolve, a thought gradually begins to form in Ngiamha's mind. These monsters are exactly like the ones they faced during their prior training. They are just way too predictable. He is starting to believe that everything, maybe it was all set up from the start, just pick the right backer, and the path ahead is paved with gold. Right next to him, Gongcheng was already pressing him to go raid the boss. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Sichin's team, caught in a blinding blizzard at the summit of Mount Yunshen. The wind howls with a bone-chilling cold, and the mana pressure is so suffocating it's hard to breathe. Sichin stands perfectly still, his eyes narrowing as he glares ahead, his voice dropping low. So, we've actually reached the peak of this low-tier abyss. Right ahead of us, the frost fiend ape is lying flat against the snow. Its breathing is heavy, but still dripping with pure malice. Turning pale, Ma Long stammers, Is that the final lord? It looks absolutely terrifying. Shang Zuo isn't doing any better, offering a bitter laugh. Just one hit from that thing would easily kill me 10 times over. Right then, the beast snaps its eyes open, a blood-red glare sweeping across the area. Panicking, Ma Long shrieks, "It's looking right at us!" Without a moment's hesitation, the frost fiend ape charges forward like a raging cyclone, sending the group scattering in sheer chaos. Only Sitchin leaps into the air, aiming a direct foot dive at its head. Without missing a beat, Sitchin delivers a crushing kick that sends the Frost Fiend ape flying back. The second his feet touch the ground, his body blurs in a trajectory of golden light, moving so fast it seems to tear through space itself. The beast roars in agony, its cries crushed under the terrifying power exploding all around it. Razor-sharp beams of light strike down like invisible blades, shredding its body to pieces before it can even fight back. In the blink of an eye, Sitchin spins around, his weapon impaling the Frost Fiend ape's body, bringing the battle to a clean, brutally cold end. Xiangzuo and Ma Long stand frozen in place, their bodies completely stiff, unable to believe what just unfolded right before their eyes. A low-tier lord, taken down that fast. A few minutes later, amid the melting snow and clotted blood, Sitchin stands silently, examining the monster's corpse. The system chimes with a notification. Plus, 200 EXP. Obtained 1 frost ape hide. He frowns slightly, a strong sense of unease washing over him because the rewards are far too meager for a low-tier lord. Just then, a scream echoes from a distance, drawing everyone's attention. Xiangzuo rushes over to a massive tree trunk, its hollow interior packed with glowing mana crystals. He waves his hands frantically, his voice trembling with pure excitement. This has to be a mid-grade mana crystal cache. If we bring this back, we're set for life. But Seekin's face immediately pales as he yells to stop them. Wait, but it's too late. Someone has already touched the mana crystal block. The instant they make contact, a bizarre light explodes, swallowing everything. A wave of freezing energy surges outward like a tide. With a loud boom, a frost explosion erupts, sealing the entire area in thick, impenetrable ice. The surveillance monitor immediately goes dark as warning alarms blare. Sitchin's team has lost signal. In the observation room, Gongshuan strokes his beard with a cold sneer. Just as I thought, they fell right into the trap. High-level monsters always possess intelligence. Trash will always be trash, and in the end, they only drag each other down. This assessment is as good as over. Cavendish immediately proposes sending in a rescue team, but Yuan Long raises a hand to stop him, his eyes calm. Their life signals are still stable, and they haven't given up yet. The decision must be left to the examinees. Meanwhile, back in the abyss, only Ma Long remains standing amidst the bone-chilling ice, his breath coming in ragged, shivering gasps. Behind him, his teammates are completely frozen solid. But before he can even gather his wits, the ground rumbles as a massive, mutated monster slowly manifests out of thin air. As if it, and it alone, is the true ruler of this place. Instantly, memories from the monster field guide flash through Ma Long's mind. An undead class mage capable of both offense and crowd control, exceptionally skilled at manipulating ice and snow. It possesses a sadistic nature, loving to corner its prey before slowly crushing them to pieces. The Frostbone King. No doubt about it, that's what it is. Those earlier ice explosions were nothing but a carefully set trap. Realizing the terrifying gap in power, Ma Long has only one thought left: run. He has to get out of here as fast as humanly possible. But before he can get far, a piercing pain shoots through his leg. Blood splatters against the cold, white snow, dragging him to the ground as he gasps for air in agonizing pain. Hovering above, the Frostbone King simply watches, letting out bizarre, eerie sounds as if mocking its prey. The system's cold warning chime rings out, notifying him of a penetrating wound in his left leg and asking if he wishes to forfeit the exam. Ma Long grits his teeth through the pain, trying to channel his magic, but he flatly refuses the prompt. He has only one goal left in mind: he has to save Sitchin. He believes that as long as Sitchin is still breathing, they still have a chance. But immediately after, another icicle impales his arm, forcing a scream from his throat. His body collapses onto the snow, blood soaking through layers of his clothes. As the shadow of the Frostbone King looms closer, his survival watch constantly blares danger. His heart rate spikes, and the system prompts him to forfeit once more. For a split second, Ma Long's resolve wavers, but memories of running away, of being looked down upon and left behind, make him grit his teeth in determination. If he keeps living in fear, everything they sacrificed to get here will have been for nothing. Letting out a fierce roar to shatter his hesitation, he realizes he can't stop here. Instantly, his power surges as he activates his skill. Ma Long lunges desperately towards Sitchin, who is still sealed in the freezing ice, completely ignoring the deadly ice spikes closing in on the back of his neck. In this absolute moment of life and death, cornered in a death trap, he roars, pouring every ounce of his willpower into one final strike to save them. Right at that moment, the ice seal explodes. A blinding light tears through the air as Tran breaks free, charging out from the heart of the massive explosion. The sudden shock makes the Icebone King freeze in his tracks. Tran swoops in to catch Ma Long, a faint smile playing on his lips, as if everything that just happened was only the warm-up. Ma Long frantically asks if he is okay, but Tran simply replies that it is nothing to worry about. However, the danger is far from over. The Icebone King prepares yet another devastating attack. Giant frost shards gather together, unleashing a crushing pressure that feels like the entire area is about to collapse. Another violent ice blast erupts, burying everything under a blinding sheet of white snow. But amidst the chaotic wreckage, a colossal pillar of light suddenly bursts from Tran, sending shockwaves across the entire battlefield. Ma Long watches in utter shock, realizing that Tran's power is completely off the charts, and it does not even match his original class anymore. Just as he wonders if this is a dual-class awakening, the system confirms that the transition is complete. Shrouded in the brilliant, expanding light, Tran calmly declares that he will be the one to end this fight. Tran steps forward onto the ruined battlefield. He slowly extends his hand, his voice so freezing cold it practically cuts through the air. "I am sorry. It was my lack of foresight that put you all in danger." The moment those words leave his mouth, the energy inside him surges violently, casting a heavy, suffocating aura like an invisible mountain. Clenching his fist, magical light flares up. But that ends now. At that exact second, the system chimes to announce the class transition is complete. Tran, level 16, Purgatory Rakshasa. His eyes grow sharp, his voice dropping low, as he says, "I will end him right now." Ma Long stands behind him, jaw dropped in disbelief, his mind going completely blank. Normally, an awakened can only have one class, but there is an extremely rare chance, about 1 in 10 million, for a dual class to appear. Such individuals are so incredibly rare that there are fewer than 10 of them in the entire world. Once revealed, they become the ultimate prize for every major guild. Yet, Tran does not just stop at a dual class. His original base power is a lightning element assassin. He then went on to activate the moon-slaying art skill, and now he is even evolving to an entirely new level of power. Ma Long feels like his head is about to explode. 3 classes? On the battlefield, thunder crashes down violently, ripping the earth and rocks apart. Tran vanishes from the ground in an instant, blasting into the air like a bolt of lightning to close in on the Icebone King. Ma Long can only watch, feeling the same suffocating pressure that the monster once gave off, now completely crushed under Tran's sheer dominance. With a single slash of his blade, lightning erupts, striking the Icebone King dead on, sending violent shocks throughout its entire body. Tran has now entered his Star Warrior state, channeling the triple calamity form to push his strength to the absolute limit. With one more swing, the Icebone King's body is torn apart, dissolving right in mid-air without leaving a single trace behind. Tran lowers his blade to the ground, bringing a complete end to the battle. The system immediately chimes, announcing that his experience has increased by 5,000, raising his level to 17 and awarding him the Frostbone Spike. Ma Long walks over, looks at the remaining skeletal skull of the Icebone King, and laughs. "Man, you're unreal. A C-rank boss monster, and you took it out with just one slash." Tran doesn't answer right away, only glancing into the distance as his voice drops. Those other 2 are still frozen. "Do you have enough strength left?" Hearing this, Ma Long freezes for a second, then immediately panics and runs off, shouting, "Oh crap, I almost forgot about those 2. As the battlefield falls quiet, Tran stands there with glowing eyes, reaching out his hand to absorb the residual energy left from the Icebone King's corpse. A progress bar appears, as the power within his body continues to solidify and grow stronger. He mutters quietly, "A cloud element mage. This new class. It is my first time devouring one outside of the dream realm." Glancing over at the camera drone that was frozen earlier, he frowns slightly before letting out a sigh of relief. "Looks like I didn't get exposed to the audience. There is still time. A perfect score is definitely in the bag." Right after, a beam of light descends from above, announcing an increase in class mastery. Tran lets out a small laugh. "Oh, another star." In another area of the high-risk D-rank dungeon, Kung Din's team is locked in a desperate struggle. Nyimha screams out while desperately defending. "Is this really a D-rank boss? How is it this strong?" Another member gasps for breath while striking. "Its defense is insane. We can't break through it at all. The monster roars, rampaging wildly across the battlefield, completely unfazed even when struck by lightning. Blown back by the impact, Nimha grits his teeth. There was nothing like this in our training prep. How are we supposed to fight it? Someone shouts, our only hope is the captain. Meanwhile, word spreads across the field that leader Kung Din is still channeling his power. Then, the air suddenly trembles, and a calm voice cuts through. That is enough. Tran appears. Without a second thought, he plunges right into the battle, driving his blade straight through the massive monster's body. With freezing eyes, he yells, shatter! Power explodes from his blade, tearing through all defenses and triggering a massive, earth-shaking blast. Boom! A blinding light engulfs the entire area below, and the crowd goes absolutely wild. Our guild leader is insane. He's a beast. Then, the system's announcement blares out, declaring that Gong Ting's team has cleared the D-rank dungeon in just 35 minutes. The entire team erupts in celebration. We cleared a D-rank dungeon in just over half an hour? That's a perfect score. The atmosphere explodes with victorious cheers. A new record has just been set in the Academy's history. As Gong Cheng walks away, he sneers, his voice dripping with contempt. He raises his voice among the crowd that has just escaped the dungeon. Even the lowest F-rank dungeon normally takes at least 1 hour to clear. Anyone else who got out in this amount of time is probably just a bunch of useless losers who gave up. Someone nearby clutches their head, mumbling in sheer panic. Monsters, please don't kill me. A teammate quickly pulls them back to calm them down. Get a grip. We're already out of the dungeon. A girl still trembles violently, her face pale. Those monsters were too terrifying. Right then, Wen Wei's eyes glance toward a group standing in the distance, a dangerous smirk creeping onto his face. Gong Cheng looks over as well, and sneers. Is that Si Chen? Looks like those losers got eliminated too. But then, he suddenly double takes. Wait, is that really Si Chen? He turns back to the crowd behind them, his voice dripping with sarcasm. What's the matter? Couldn't even finish the exam? Didn't you use to act so tough? Just then, someone calls out, telling Gong Cheng to look back. Hey, the vice president is here. Let's go greet him. From a distance, Cavendish slowly approaches, clapping softly with an overwhelming presence. Wonderful. Today, we truly witnessed an outstanding performance. The air immediately grows tense as their eyes lock. Gong Cheng thinks to himself, this is one of the most powerful men on earth, and he's actually walking toward us. But then, Cavendish cold shoulders them, walking right past as if they aren't even worth his time. Instead, he steps directly in front of Si Chen. In a voice full of praise, he says, I never expected someone to clear a D-rank dungeon in just 21 minutes. Even famous guild leaders might not pull that off. Truly impressive. Gong Cheng stands frozen, his face turning pale. What? 21 minutes? Did those four really clear a D-rank dungeon, and that fast? Behind him, Si Chen's teammates immediately salute. Greetings, Vice President. Si Chen calmly observes Cavendish, quickly reading the situation in his head. The Vice President of the World Guild Alliance, a man second only to the absolute peak of power. Why on earth is he here in person? Cavendish smiles. You're Si Chen, right? It seems my trip here was well worth it. And the young master of the Gong family did exceptionally well too, leading a team to clear a D-rank dungeon at such a young age. The youth of today are truly formidable. Gong Xuan bows slightly. The vice president is far too kind. Cavendish glances briefly at Gong Ting, then turns around. His voice is calm. It is getting late, so I must take my leave. The surrounding crowd whispers in excitement. The principal really hit the jackpot. 2 rare geniuses. Gong Xuan takes a deep breath and announces the results. Since we have 2 teams with perfect scores, both are tied for first place. Every single member is now qualified to join the Empire Guild. Ma Long immediately gets hyped. The Empire Guild. Are we really in? A thunderous cheer erupts from the crowd. It feels like stepping through this door will change their lives forever. Gong Xuan continues. Additionally, both team captains, Si Chen and Gong Ting, will be appointed to key management roles, and they will split the MVP prize of 1 million credits evenly. Si Chen's expression darkens slightly as he quickly calculates in his head. 500,000 is still not enough. I'm still 500,000 short. Right then, Gong Ting steps forward, his eyes sharp and cold. There can only be one first place. I want a rematch to settle this once and for all. The crowd immediately starts whispering. Gong Xuan frowns. What are you talking about? The results are set. There's no need for this. But Si Chen steps up, his voice calm yet absolute. If I win, the full 1 million is mine. Gong Xuan nearly spits out his drink. Gong Ting narrows his eyes and responds without hesitation. If you can beat me, it's all yours. Cavendish, standing nearby, laughs in amusement. Fascinating. It seems the show isn't over just yet. Si Chen takes a step forward, locking his razor-sharp gaze on his opponent. Name the challenge. How are we doing this? Qingji gently adjusts his glasses, his voice carrying a hint of admiration, but mostly pure calculation. I only expected you to secure first place, but I never imagined you'd shatter the record with a perfect score. Right now, the entire media is covering your story. It seems my angel investment in you was the right choice. He pauses for a beat before emphasizing, that 1,500,000 you owe, you don't need to pay it back. Consider it my investment in you, Si Chen. But Si Chen fires back immediately, his voice cold and resolute. No, I will pay you back. He looks straight at Qingji and continues, I came here today to say two things. First, I need to extend my payment deadline by 1 week. Since I tied for first place in this exam, my prize money was cut by 500,000. His gaze doesn't waver. 1 week from now, I will have a tiebreaker match against the other first place winner in the wild dungeon outside the academy. Qingji gasps in shock. What? You two students want to go into the wild dungeon outside the academy? His voice instantly turns deadly serious. Without guild supervision, doing something like that is way too dangerous. That is way too risky. Tran calmly interrupted. Don't worry. If I win that match, I'll get the remaining 500,000. Plus, I can gather resources in the dungeon, which should cover another week of interest. Than Qi silently adjusted his glasses. His eyes narrowed as if analyzing some bizarre phenomenon. Stepping into a wild dungeon without a shred of fear, yet only thinking about debts and interest rates. This guy is definitely not normal. Tran took a sip of water, his voice remaining completely flat. Besides, I brought you something else. Something far more important than that money. The moment those words left his mouth, the air in the room instantly grew heavy. Than Qi stared at him, his expression shifting from calm to doubt, and then gradually becoming unsettled. Tran kept speaking, his every word dragging the man deeper into an inescapable whirlpool of information. Finally, Than Qi couldn't help but leap to his feet, his eyes filled with sheer shock. At the same time, another scene appears. On the afternoon of June 17th at Than Thui High School in Thuong District, Tu Van stretched her arms and let out a sigh of relief. Finally, the exams are over. Behind her, classmates started gossiping about the test, some complaining they didn't even understand the questions, while others were busy guessing the answers. Tu Van pulled out her phone, her gaze turning solemn. Summer break was up next, but right then, she froze. Today was also her brother's graduation exam day. Memories from 4 years ago came rushing back. Back then, Tran had happily told her that he possessed elemental potential, had been admitted to the National Awakened University, and would become an awakened, join a major guild, make tons of money, change their lives, and most importantly, find clues about their parents' disappearance. Tu Van had been so proud back then, always believing that her brother would become the strongest of them all. But as time went by, everyone around them awakened one after another, except for Tran, who showed absolutely no response. With each passing year, that silence grew heavier, but he never let it show in front of his sister. Just then, a classmate ran up. Hey Tu Van, have you heard the news yet? This year, 2 graduating geniuses got perfect scores. They were even personally greeted by the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance. Our whole district is about to be famous. Tu Van stood frozen as a sudden wave of emptiness washed over her. All her peers were becoming geniuses, while her brother was. She turned and ran off, ignoring the voices calling after her, with only one thought in mind. She had to get home and cook a delicious meal to comfort her brother. On the night of June 17th, inside their small rented apartment, the dining table was packed with food, steam rising hot from the dishes. Tran looked around, slightly surprised. Little Van, when did you find the time to cook all this? On the TV screen, the evening news was playing. This morning, the National Awakened University successfully completed its practical graduation assessment. The vice chairman of the Guild Alliance, Cavendish, personally attended the event. Tu Van lowered her head, her voice barely a whisper, sure that her brother was just trying to put on a brave face. The news continued. Remarkably, this year's exam produced 2 co-champions who achieved perfect scores, one of whom is Tran. Tu Van froze, snapping her head toward the screen as she stammered, Tran got a perfect score? Meanwhile, in another place, a chilling voice echoed through the darkness. The stage was set, the audience was fully invited, yet everything was completely ruined. The voice paused for a beat, then grew razor sharp. You didn't win, and you actually lost to some nobody. The voice dropped, dripping with bone-chilling intent. From now on, you no longer have a say in your own life. I've already arranged the practical battle happening in 1 week. A low, domineering chuckle echoed. If you can't get it done, I'll do it myself. No matter what, first place can only belong to the Kung family. On screen, the news report continued as Cavendish's voice rang out. He praised Tran's performance as highly impressive and hoped that the Dongtan nation would continue to cultivate more outstanding talents. Tuvan was completely dumbfounded. Wait, is that Tran they just mentioned on TV actually you? Tran kept chewing, looking confused. What about it? Suddenly, the spoon slipped from her hand and shattered instantly on the floor. Outside, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled across the sky. Her mind was in complete chaos. Her actual biological brother had not only led his team to a perfect score on the graduation exam, but was even publicly praised by the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance. The room fell dead silent, and things got incredibly awkward. Soon, tears of joy welled up in Tuvan's eyes for her silly brother. She looked at him with immense pride. He truly was extraordinary. Sitting across from her, Tran just stared back with a completely blank face. On the night of June 17th that year, Cavendish commented while eating. As expected, the specialty Wagyu beef from Dongtan Nation really is the best. He asked the person sitting across from him. How are things progressing on your end? Dian reported, this is all the collected data. They haven't left a single trace over the past year, so they might have detected us. Cavendish replied, good work, let's eat first. Dian continued, there's one more thing. I recently noticed a suspicious target who interacted with you not long ago, whose growth rate is incredibly abnormal. Inside the first floor of the Demon Tower, Tran grinded for over half a month, practically wiping out all the monsters on this floor. He had fully adapted to the 10 times gravity environment. After the graduation battle, his lightning element assassin class had reached 1 star, increasing his proficiency. None of his other 4 classes had reached this level yet. He hit the limit. That star boosted his speed stat, pushing it all the way to 740, a massive 4-fold increase. But even so, he still couldn't land a hit on the boss. Right in front of him, a pack of rabid monsters unleashed their ferocious aura, roaring as they charged straight at him. Tran fired back with his lightning assassin skill, Flash God. A massive bolt of lightning erupted, forcing them back. But the Lion King boss was acting extremely strange. Every single time he attacked, it vanished into thin air, only to reappear right next to a lioness at the very back of the pack. They kept shifting their formation, but always maintained the same structure. 2 melee fighters up front, 2 scouts watching, and the Lion King always keeping its distance at the back. It wasn't fighting him directly. Tran frowned. What on earth is its class? Suddenly, a panther lunged at him, only to be heavily wounded by a blast of lightning. But the tactical loop kept repeating. Every time he went for a target, it swapped positions and vanished, dragging him into a battle of attrition. Panting heavily, Tran muttered, "Are you playing with me?" But then, he suddenly froze. Wait, why am I trying to match this with speed? A realization flashed in his mind. He didn't need to be an assassin anymore. His eyes turned ice cold as he initiated a class change. The space shook violently, and his aura shifted completely. Ice Mage transition complete. Frost Skeleton King. Tran's body glowed intensely as a cold, mechanical voice echoed through the shifting space during his class change. Only one thought filled his mind. If you bastards don't want to face me head on, why the hell should I play by your rules? Tran snapped his eyes open, his killing intent exploding like a tidal wave. So, why shouldn't I just use magic to crush every last one of you? The system screen flashed rapidly. Class change complete. Tran. Frost Skeleton King. The status window immediately popped up in front of him. The stats of the Frost Skeleton King were displayed in full detail. An Ice Mage, whose strength, speed, stamina, element, luck, and spirit all flashed on the screen at once. Tran's body floated gently into the air, surrounded by a freezing, spreading frost aura. A split second later, a violent blizzard explosion erupted, forcing the beast pack to instantly scatter to avoid it. The entire battlefield plunged into chaos as a power akin to a natural disaster rained down from above. Tran calmly analyzed the situation while controlling his magic. Mages might be weaker in close-quarters combat, but they are incredibly dominant at long range, crowd control, and wearing down opponents. The moment the beasts turned to run, beams of freezing light rained down from the sky, cutting off their escape. The ground was completely blanketed by freezing magic, leaving absolutely no room to move. A few tried to break through the chaos and flee, but when they turned around, they realized the entire space had already been sealed shut. They were forced entirely into Tran's attack range. Panic-stricken roars echoed everywhere. Hovering above, Tran gently gathered mana in his hand. Ice Mage skill, Ice Explosion. He coldly calculated in his head, once you're locked in this zone, there is absolutely no escape. The beasts panicked, their eyes filled with sheer terror, but it was already too late. Tran delivered the final blow. At that moment, the entire area was swallowed by a blinding flash of ice and snow, completely wiping out all visibility. The pack of beasts that had been so ferocious just moments ago was now frozen, completely solid, unable to make a single move. The mechanical voice chimed in once more. Tran, Purgatory Rakshasa, class change complete. Tran's icy voice cut through the battlefield. The battle on the first floor of the Demon Tower ends here. His eyes flashed, carrying an emotion he had suppressed for a long time. Right after that, he activated his strongest form, Star Warrior, Triple, General Tribulation, Heavy Gravity version. A devastating shockwave swept across the entire battlefield. When the light finally faded, nothing was left but ruined wasteland. The bodies of the beasts gradually disintegrated, vanishing into the freezing air like an eternal winter. Tran descended to the ground, returning to his base form. Spiritual energy wrapped around him as his level was displayed. Level 24, Tran. But something else caught his attention. The beast's corpse could still be devoured. He raised his hand, his gaze turning serious. Light, condensed. Tell me, what exactly is your class? As the smoke cleared, the monster's soul was dragged from its body and slowly subjugated by Tran. The status screen popped up. Phantom Beast Master King Star, Beast Tamer. Tran frowned slightly. A Beast Tamer. This was the first time he had ever seen this kind of class. He quickly figured it out. No wonder it didn't fight directly. Its entire strength relied solely on its contracted beasts. The system's analysis of the spatial dimension left Tran deep in thought. The ability to traverse dimensions, combined with the power to force contracts onto beasts, though it requires absolute suppression. He muttered softly, to tame something like this, it seems I'll need to use even harsher methods. The surrounding space began to warp as the exit of the first floor of the Demon Tower gradually materialized. Tran looked around. Is this what the first floor actually looks like? Why is it so desolate? 41. Suddenly, a rift in space opened right in front of him. The doorway leading to the second floor appeared, and a vicious gaze flashed within the crack. Why is it so desolate? Suddenly, a rift in space opened right in front of him. The doorway leading to the second floor appeared. Tran immediately turned around and spotted a small creature warily watching him from among the pile of leftover bones. He narrowed his eyes. There's still one left? As his gaze swept over it, he noticed something unusual. The Lion King is dead, but this one didn't disappear, which means it wasn't a main contracted beast. It has spiritual chains on its body, almost as if it had been imprisoned. Imprisoned? Without a second thought, Tran lunged forward, his body covered in lightning. The little lion cub froze, completely dazed. But instead of attacking, Tran just gently shattered its chains. He calmly said, "Go on, you're free now." His eyes dimmed slightly. "Your home probably doesn't exist anymore, does it?" His voice dropped. "I know how that feels, but at least you're alive. I've got to keep moving forward too." Right then, a system notification chimed. Active beast contract request detected. Tran froze and turned his head to look at the little lion. The system continued. Lion King Leo requests to form a contract with you. Do you accept? Tran's voice was quiet but clear as he asked, "You want to follow me?" The cub let out a soft growl, its voice filled with raw determination, a silent response that needed no words. Tran stared at it for a moment, then spoke slowly. "From here on out, I'm going to conquer the magic tower, floor by floor. The higher we go, the more vicious the monsters get. You could get hurt, or even die. Are you absolutely sure about this?" The little cub immediately roared with fierce determination, without a single shred of hesitation. Tran closed his eyes briefly, then opened them, his voice calmer. "I get it. His gaze turned resolute as he accepted the contract. The system immediately announced, Lion King Leo. Contract complete. Passive skill activated. A moment later, Tran let out a soft chuckle. All right then, let's go together. Just make sure you stay safe while I'm fighting. Right after that, he stepped into a space glowing with a blazing red fire. Tran quickly felt that something was off. This space exerted an overwhelming pressure, as if simply existing here would burn him to ashes. He frowned. Man, it's hot. Feels like I'm going to melt any second. He scanned his surroundings. What on earth is on this floor? Suddenly, a blinding light flashed, completely engulfing his vision. Tran instinctively turned away, but in that split second, a gaping hole suddenly appeared right in his torso. His eyes widened in shock, completely unable to process what was happening. In the next instant, Tran's consciousness was abruptly pulled back. He woke up in his own room. No battle, no resistance, just the chilling realization that he had been instantly one-shotted. Tran narrowed his eyes. What kind of insane power was that? What exactly is the monster on the second floor? Just then, Tuvan's voice called out from outside. Come eat breakfast, big brother. On the table was a fully prepared meal. As Tran sat down, he said, Wow, breakfast is incredibly fancy today. While packing her things, Tuvan reminded him, Remember to wash the dishes in the sink when you're done. Oh, and hang up the laundry in 30 minutes. Tran asked curiously, Little Van, summer break just started. Where are you heading off to? Tuvan turned around with a smile. I got a part-time job. Since my big brother is so amazing, I don't want to lag behind. Besides, staying at home is boring anyway. With that, she waved. I'm off. Don't forget the dishes and the laundry. Tran watched her go for a long moment before starting to clean up. He thought to himself, Little Van has always been like this. Stubborn yet so resilient. She's still so young, yet she's always trying to stand on her own 2 feet. Honestly, it feels like she's the one taking care of me around here. Once everything at school is wrapped up, I'll have to deal with the exploding Demon King. I'll have less and less time to spend with her. Out of everyone, she's the one I worry about the most. Suddenly, Tran paused, a spark in his eyes. Wait. He closed his eyes, pondering. Maybe I can do this. In the next instant, a dimensional rift tore open behind him, and the lion cub tumbled out onto the floor. Tran gasped in disbelief. No way. I can actually summon a contracted beast out of the magic tower? Before he could even react, the cub started dashing around the room, making a complete mess of everything. Tran watched it and thought, but if this works, I can leave Leo by Little Van's side when I'm not around. If she's ever in danger, I'll feel it immediately. Besides, Little Van loves cats and dogs, so she'd probably accept a little lion cub too. Right at that moment, the doorbell rang. Tran stood up slowly, a hint of hesitation in his chest. I wonder if she'll actually be okay with this. As the sunset began to drape over the city, a security camera inside a certain house was suddenly smashed to pieces. A man covered in blood trembled in terror, crying, No, stay back. But his scream was abruptly cut short by a brutal, devastating attack. His eyes dilated in horror, reflecting nothing but the monstrous figure looming over him. Meanwhile, in another dark corner of the city, another victim was already being targeted. Cut to Tuvan walking on her way home. She let out a tired sigh. Finally off work. Selling boba tea is no joke, it's so packed. Standing all day is absolutely exhausting. She mumbled softly to herself. I wonder if Big Brother will like this flavor. Her small figure stood solitary on the long, empty road. Suddenly, Tuvan froze as an eerie sense of dread washed over her. She spun around, and at that very moment, a creepy voice whispered behind her. Finally, you're here. Standing in the middle of a flower garden, Daham's voice rang out. You're finally back. I've been waiting for you for a long time, Little Van. Last time at school, you were in such a rush that you missed out on my date invitation. But don't you worry. Tonight, I've booked the entire top floor of Tufong Tower just for us. Tuvan kept her head lowered as she asked, How did you know I live around here? He smirked with supreme confidence. Well, my dad is the director of the first hospital, after all. A little connection like this is nothing. Tuvan turned to leave. We belong to different worlds. Don't ever come looking for me again. But in that exact moment, Daham reached out and grabbed her arm tightly, approaching her with an angry tone. Hey, do you have any idea how much effort it took to book an entire floor at the Purple Wind Tower? On top of that, I invited so many of my friends. If you don't show up, you're really making me look bad. In an annoyed voice, Tu Van retorts, "Why on earth should I care about your reputation? Besides, don't you think it's incredibly creepy to creep around someone's house like this?" His tone shifts to that of a total thug. "Creepy? Who do you think you are? Just because I'm pursuing you, you think you're some kind of prize?" Doyham starts threatening her. "You think I can't make you regret this in a matter of minutes?" But then, Tu Van puts all her strength into a punch, slamming him right in the face and leaving him bleeding. Furious, the young girl snaps, "You should go get your head checked at your dad's hospital, and don't you ever mess with me again. My whole day is ruined because of you." As night falls, only the lights from their two homes remain lit. Tu Van hugs the little cub and squeals in excitement. "Oh my god, this little magic beast is so adorable. Where did you get him, big brother?" Tran explains, "His name is Leo, and he's all yours to raise." She asks joyfully, "Really? I can actually raise a little lion? I thought only adult lions had manes, right? Leo is still so small, so why is his fur so long? Ah, whatever. Tomorrow, I'm going to get his magic beast permit, add him to our household registry, and register little Leo. Come here, Leo." He lets out a warm, happy smile. It looks like little Van absolutely adores Leo. There's nothing to worry about at home anymore. Just then, the phone in Tran's hand suddenly rings. He immediately grabs it and stares at the screen. Upon seeing the message, a faint smile plays on Tran's lips. Looking at the notification, he says happily, "Finally, the application has been approved. Now, the plan can go ahead smoothly. Next up, I just need to ace the makeup exam in 6 days." 6 days later, on June 24th, 2021, the makeup evaluation begins at 3:10 in the afternoon, in the outskirts of the Luke Kwang forest. Kung Hoyin clears his throat and announces, "Ahem. Attention to the 2 candidates participating in the makeup exam. I will now brief you on the evaluation process. After careful deliberation, the school has decided that this makeup exam will take place in the Wild Magic Den inside this Luke Kwang forest. Based on our equipment scans, this Wild Magic Den is classified as Rank D. As previously agreed, both of you will face the challenge within the same Magic Den. The environment inside the Wild Magic Den is completely unknown, making the risks far greater than any standard school evaluation. Therefore, 3 senior guild members from the New East Nation have been dispatched to serve as the examiner panel. They will accompany the 2 candidates into the Magic Den. This will ensure your safety while allowing them to grade your performance in real time. They are, in order, Eve from the Empire Guild, Tai Nu from the Divine Eye Guild, and lastly, Sato Yuta from the Silver Wind Guild. He emphasizes that their final results will be determined entirely by the scores given by these examiners. Hearing this, Kung Lam feels a smirk rising, thinking to himself, "You 3 examiners better play your parts well. Make sure everything goes down without leaving a single trace." On the other side, someone asks, "Vice President, your trip to the New East Nation ended 2 days ago, right? Why are you still here today?" Cavendish replies smoothly, "What could possibly be more entertaining than what's happening right here?" The monitor displays the faces of Tran and Kung Din. He continues, "It's been years since we last witnessed a duel between true geniuses. I must say, I'm highly anticipating this." Right then, Kung Huyen raises his hand high. "I hereby declare the National Awakened University, Class 2157's practical graduation exam. The makeup match between Tran and Kung Din officially begins now." Hearing this, the 2 of them step into the barrier together. Tran steps through the magic barrier portal. His figure looks tiny in the midst of the vast, open space. Both Kung Din and Tran warily scan their surroundings. Tai Nu pipes up, dead trees everywhere. It looks like a fire attribute magic den. Just then, a strange light suddenly flickers before him. Tran stares at it in shock, his eyes widening in disbelief.